That is a monkey jumping off the back of the St Kilda Footy Club. They've lost 14 of the last 15 to Port Adelaide.
What a win for St Kilda. 13-11-89, defeat Port 10-12-72.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name's Dave, and as always, thank you for joining us, whatever platform you may be listening or viewing from. Every listen, like, download, subscription, as I was talking to on Stu on the weekend, and shout out to Stu and Jess. It all matters, and we appreciate you all. To the weekend, much like the French Maginot Line in World War II, we looked good on paper, very formidable, but in practice, we only looked one way, and St Kilda simply game planned around us, and with superior pressure, much like the swift German attacks through the forests of Belgium that the French simply did not plan for, we could not hold St Kilda off in a first quarter onslaught that ultimately decided the game. It really feels 10-12-72 to 13-11-89 was the final in favour of the Saints. Jamie, it's an interesting one to dissect, and though I have plenty of anger for some of the events on the weekend still and a lot of frustration at ultimately how it played out, there's a lot of intrigue in this one as we get into it with the rewatch that we've both done and a lot of the stats. I think we're going to find it an interesting one to discuss. How are you feeling about it 48 hours later?
I'm annoyed. Hello to you and everyone consuming our content right now. It's nice to have you listening or viewing. Therapy is now in session. A lot of interesting aspects of the game to dissect, but ultimately we let another one slip, and now we're chasing the pack a little bit. Funnily enough, we didn't actually move in terms of ladder position, I don't think. I think we started 12th and entered 12th. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's beside the point. We're just playing a very frustrating brand of football right now and leaving a lot to be desired. And like you said, as we go through discussing this match in particular, we'll all understand why, because we watch the replay so that you guys listening or viewing don't have to. Yeah. And it does make for very interesting viewing. It always does. I always say that when people are consuming it live, as we were, and everyone else, every other Port Adelaide fan, emotion clouds the mind in the immediate aftermath of any game of football, and then you watch the replay and sometimes you find comfort in it and sometimes you find bewilderment in it. And this match kind of had it all in terms of probably more so bewilderment because we were on the negative side of the ledger. But I don't, even in a poor display of football for large patches, I don't think that we should have. I think, again, it was another game that we could have snatched and grabbed while we're still looking for form, but we didn't.
Yeah, and that's where some of the frustration comes from, is that despite, and I think we'll maybe before we get into the Lions, maybe talk about the first quarter in a minute, but because I've watched that 3 times now, both once live and twice in replay, because I had to go back and watch it again just to try to grab everything I could from it, because it just, it was bewildering to me looking at.
Before we do that though, this is a question that I wanted to pose to you. Pretty much immediately on the drive home. But to put it succinctly, if I was to tell you, and this is a thought experiment for the listeners and viewers on YouTube as well, but if I was to tell you before the game that Georgiadis would kick 3, Jason HORNE-FRANCIS would kick 3, a returning Ollie Lord would kick 3, we win disposals, handballs, inside 50s, disposal efficiency, free kicks, hit outs, centre clearances, contested possession, uncontested possession, marks inside 50 by more than double, contested marks by more than double, tackles inside 50, tackles as a whole, bounces and 1%ers. Who do you think wins that game of football?
I'm thinking we won by 7 goals.
And Zach Butters on return getting 30 disposals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. I know you and I have texted a little bit about how the stats were kind of wild to see post game after what we'd seen, and it's probably
And like I said to you, I scrolled through all of those stats at least 5 times on the drive home, just not really believing what I was looking at on my phone after not really believing what I saw across 4 quarters of the match.
yeah. And the stats do kind of speak to the fact that there was, 2.5 quarters where we actually did put some good pressure on. It's just the crucial turnovers, bad marking, and we'll get into all that as we go through the lines a bit. We can talk about it whenever.
And a lot of it is weighted towards that first quarter that
Yeah.
that you wanted to discuss, and I definitely want to discuss, and I'm sure everyone wants to hear about.
Yeah. Because that first quarter, we will talk about the lines, but I was just thinking the first quarter as its own thing is just it's where the game was lost because it allowed St Kilda that ability to defend. Like they sat like dropped off a bit in the second quarter when our pressure went up, and then they were just able to take advantage of a couple of minutes at the end of the second quarter as well. But the stat 7 minutes into the game was, pressure rating is an interesting one, but 217, 185. And this is in St Kilda's favour. 10-2 in tackles, St Kilda's favour. 9-3 in inside 50s, St Kilda's favour. 41-18 disposals, St Kilda's favour. We were up 9-1 in hitouts, but losing clearances 2-8 in the first 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just like we just weren't, and stoppage was still a major problem on the night, throughout the night. And 73% to 27% forward half possession, so in favour of St Kilda again. So these kind of stats were loose ball gets were 22-6 to St Kilda. I think a little bit further into the quarter. I think kicking efficiency was 45% for Port. So there's a lot of these stats kind of in that.
I think sorry to cut you off. I think we ended the quarter in single digits for contested possessions. I'm not sure if
I didn't.
That was at the end of the quarter or when we were there on Sunday. It flashed up on the screen.
Flashing it up.
It was definitely deep into the first quarter, if not quarter time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were at 9 contested possessions.
Yeah, which would
to 20 something.
Yeah. I think one of the commentators made note of it that you should never, when we'd only had 18 disposals and they'd had 41, for them to also be, just leading the tackle count 10-2, it should never be that way. It just speaks to kind of just how slack we were in that first quarter. And at this point, 7-8 minutes in, the Saints hadn't actually punished us. It was only a probably 8-point lead. I think they got their second goal kind of a third of the way through the quarter and broke open that.
Well, we both rewatched the game, and if not twice. And I actually I haven't listed timestamps on them, but it was basically just a running summary of what happened, basically. And if you could humor me, it does paint a picture of St Kilda did bring it. They brought the pressure, but and a sign of things maybe to come throughout the game, even though we lifted for the last 3 quarters, I thought, and with quite frankly, the better team for the last 3 quarters, we just couldn't finish it off, which is a shit theme that has happened in the past in a different game plan. So there was an early drop mark, of course, in the first quarter, which kind of foreshadowed a recurring theme and the kind of butterfinger nature to a lot of our players and a lot of our safer hands traditionally. But Bergman fumbled in a tackle. He didn't retain the ball in a tackle. That would have just been a ball up. The ball spills out. That leads to St Kilda's first goal. Aaliyah gave away a free kick, which I think was probably the only legitimate free kick against Aaliyah on the day, where for high contact on Cooper Sharman, I believe it was. He kicked their second goal. But that's an error or ill discipline on our behalf. Just quietly to the other end, Wilkie took Georgiadis out of a marking contest, which just did not go penalised at all in the goal square, right in front of us.
Yeah.
You need to add that to the mixer, by the way.
I do especially after this weekend.
Yeah.
You and I standing on the concourse watching from where we were. I think there was a few moments where we went, "Oh man, Crows fans would be making a big deal out of this one, wouldn't they?"
Yeah, snide. Yeah, thinking that we could recover in the next 3 quarters and 25 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, ball's back down at St Kilda's end. Lockie Jones, who apart from this, I thought had an otherwise serviceable game, but he gets a mark or a free kick in the back pocket, goes to fake out Higgins, ends up kicking it.
I have it in my notes.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the only one for the game.
It was just I had Lockie Jones good versus bad in my notes, like, because it was that moment that was just like epitomized. Like, he takes a strong overhead mark, but then he kind of lets it slow down, and then tries to do too much.
Yeah, and bobbles it out in the full, and that gives Higgins his. Was that his second goal? It was St Kilda's third goal at the end of the day.
I think it was his first.
So bang, bang, bang. Yeah. 3 mistakes leads to 3 goals. DBJ drops a mark inside our 50. That paints a picture of how we're not responding to, you give up goals, you give up scores in games of football. It's on you to level that out. And there's some examples throughout here where we just didn't. Sin loses control of a ball in a tackle. I think it was on the half-back line, maybe in the centre square. He then doesn't stay with Higgins, who runs forward, then centres the ball for St Kilda's 4th goal in the first quarter. Another moment of time elapsed. Alir ran under a high ball while involved in a 2v1. Ball goes straight over his head. St Kilda gain possession. They handball over the top. St Kilda have their 5th goal. And then, just to rub salt in the wound, as we and everyone around us could quite obviously acknowledged, an unlucky ricochet in a centre contest ended up in St Kilda's hand out in the open. They take it inside 50 and they kick their 6th goal for the quarter. All in all, and then DBJ gets a chance late after a fantastic tackle. He doesn't even make the distance, and then it doesn't eventuate in any score whatsoever, which is rare because he's typically a good kick for goal. You would have at least expected him to score. 30 seconds left on the clock. Georgiadis gets 2 hands to a marking opportunity and drops it. 30 seconds on the clock, and we have run out of time to respond, and we're left with the 2 goals from Jason HORNE-FRANCIS on the board, one of which was a free kick or a mark, and then a 50-meter penalty anyway. So, that was just a heavy concentration of a lot of Port Adelaide fans' frustration. Pretty much their entire goal tally from the first quarter came from ill discipline or a crucial mistake in crucial spots.
Yeah, and just bad situations.
Their 6th goal, unlucky in a way. I can, shit happens. Football's played in chaos. The ricochet, what do you fucking do? But apart from that, that just kind of, as I said, rubbed salt into the wound and just epitomised how shit of a quarter it was. Yeah. In our favour or against our favour.
And we've said it a few times. I think I said it to you maybe on the day that you kind of make your own luck in footy a little bit, and we say it on the podcast a lot, that your intent and effort on the ball will generally, sometimes you get some real bad luck and it doesn't get, and you feel victimized by the sport, so to speak, in how the game turns out. But generally, if you put the right efforts and intent in, go harder for long enough and all that stuff in a football game, the rewards both ways will pan out. That's why, if you have 2 great teams go at each other for a whole game, that's where you get those classic football games that end, maybe 10 point or less, kind of back and forth. Maybe like the Hawthorn final last year was one of those examples of a game where 2 teams just went at each other a bit. And, that's just the one that immediately came to mind. But we just, there was a little bit of bad luck. The free kicks were, I think particularly at the start of the third quarter, I thought that was a brutal one. against Aaliyah and Owens that just wasn't there. And it starts the third quarter immediately with
it hands the momentum.
immediately. Just
immediately.
immediately when we were still when we had a good quarter again. But yeah, even you were talking about that Aaliyah 1v2 in the after the when the ball comes in, that comes from Logan Evans taking a great intercept mark on the wing, then he fucking kicks it out in the full. And then
Out in the fall, that's right,
The sequence of play just is immediately, I think it was Wangani Malera takes fucking, it was a great, I think Marmalade posted it, there was a great, a guy doing the imitation of the guy outside Anfield talking about, I can't remember which Liverpool player he's talking about, but there's a guy doing a Scouse accent going, Nasaya Wangani Malera is the best football player. I can't
Malera.
best player, seriously. But so he had a good game, but yeah, he kind of gets the ball forward. It comes to kind of a contest at half forward for the Saints, so then they just get out the back, and then the contest at half forward for the Saints in that moment was somehow they seemed to have just open runners around the ball, ready for the handball receive. And they kind of hack kick it forward. But then Aaliyah's 1v2. So it's how are they getting... And that's just good situational awareness from them. And it's just when a team seems like they have more players around the ball, no matter where you are on the field.
We kept getting sucked right into the contest and leaving ourselves exposed on the outside. And St Kilda... They brought a good handball game in close, particularly in the first quarter, where they just found men on the outside consistently.
But they knew when to take that, because a lot of the kicks were hack kicks. You just spoke to.
They did do a lot of hack kicking, which contributed to their clearance numbers early. It's not a pretty clearance, but it's a clearance nonetheless, and it was a bit of a surge type strategy coming out of stoppage.
But yeah, you hack kick it to knowing that you've kind of pulled the Port defense out and Aaliyah's 1v2, and as you said, he kind of got caught under the ball.
And even though he was 1v2, I still think that he was in a position, a decent position to win that. 1v2.
It was one of those rare moments. I just was
he just overcommitted and ran under the ball.
Yeah, Jesus. And as you mentioned, this is going to be something that's a theme throughout the game, but yeah, that DBJ shot for goal just kind of, I think one of the commentators said it's just floated as Port have floated through the game so far.
Nothing went through it.
Yeah. And whereas they were really a lot of shots, they had some shots from, on the run from 50 on an angle, and they were getting the power through the ball to get it to either. They missed a couple in that first quarter as well, but then when they got it online, they were getting the power. So, and we were there. It wasn't, it came overcast halfway through the game, and
and any wind was a cross breeze. It wasn't favouring either end. In my opinion.
Yeah, because there was even that Jason HORNE-FRANCIS one that looked so good in the last quarter.
Oh,
that just fucking
and
died.
Was it Matt Hill wanted to just commentate it all the way home?
Yeah, I was starting to.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, because I know you went up to.
Or was it Hutto?
I can't remember now. I didn't. I did take notice of some commentary because making fun of Rashudo on the socials today, but it was
just on that though. So you're talking about Mark Rashudo, who in the second quarter was commentating on the fact that he wasn't sure why Port Adelaide's coaches didn't pick him for the first 3 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. And I commented on your post, obviously, saying that I rolled my eyes and they nearly got stuck in the back of my head when I heard it the first time. But then I rewatched it today, and in the first quarter, he actually commentates on the fact that he's been injured, and that's what's kept him out of the side. So it's just within a quarter, and maybe Rue's taken too many hits to the head. But I was rewatching it today, and I was like, hang on, what? So you do know why, and then a quarter later, you've just completely forgotten your own words. And now you're just is this part of the dog and pony show that is footy media?
Yeah.
You're just trying to pretend that you didn't say that and that doesn't exist. And we're all supposed to be asking why Ollie Lord hasn't been picked, even though you specifically said he got injured, which has kept him out of contention for a spot. It made me laugh.
And I think someone replied on Twitter and mentioned that he was available for rounds 1 and 2, maybe. But then he got injured in that period, and at that time, Lukosius was in. So that's the thing that, like, the point being anyway about special comments and whatever is just to have your research done. Like, the reason he wasn't picked early was because they were giving him, like, Lukosius was fit, and there was a different, and then. But last week he couldn't be picked, and that's why they picked Soldo. So it was just like there's all these reasons, and it wouldn't have taken much longer to say like, oh, Lukosius was available, and he's getting a run in the sand, and then
Soldo and Visentini weren't available during preseason, so Lord had to train as a ruckman to give Sweet a proper preseason, which is benefiting Sweet, by the way.
Really pleased with Sweet. Like, it's not like he's dominated in any particular moment, but he's just kind of going about his work really well. There's a few moments throughout this game again where he just kind of gets involved in the handball link-up play quite well. Just is an available option. I
think he won his spot for sure, and I think he would be up there after 4 rounds. I think he would be up there in our best and fairest count so far.
I would imagine so.
For mine.
Before we get to the lines, though, I think to speak to, we've gone through kind of some of the moments and the stats. Just the overall thoughts about just, and this is more cerebral stuff, but why, like, the reasons for being so soft, and again, in a game to start, whether it's a slow start or whatever, this is a trend throughout the start of the season now in our contested ball and tackles and all that stuff. And just our ability to apply pressure and look like we have the intent and want to be a good football team. It's just not quite there in that first quarter. We were both exasperated watching that first quarter and just being like, just make a fucking effort. So, again, it's not like you and I kind of gone into the season with the succession plan stuff and being like, let's just give it but the reason there is all the questions being asked and the pressure is on because the evidence once again in this first quarter is particularly a particular example of it, that we just don't look like a team playing for the one thing with Hinkley was his ability to batten down the hatches, so to speak, and it's just like it seems to have been there's a little bit of that lost. I think some of the stats that were being shown and some of the shows were like that we are we're not the worst loss under Hinkley and against Collingwood. Some of the other stats, we're just worse in a lot of areas that have been typically decent for us in the last 10 years. We're just not as good. We're in our worst kind of, a lot of the worst Hinkley stats are from this year so far. And it's just like, what mentally is this doing to the team? The evidence so far is that it's not, there's a bit of a malaise there. And they probably got to rock it up at quarter time and at half time and try to get back into it. But the fact is they just didn't go out with the intent in the first quarter to want to compete with the St Kilda side that all the signs of what St Kilda did in that first quarter have been there for the last couple of weeks. Like, we weren't surprised by that performance from them.
Yeah, they got the jump on Geelong for their first win of the season a couple of weeks back. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not out of the box for them. And like they basically did exactly what Essendon did to us at the game beforehand, is just shock us early, and particularly because we're trying to get our heads around a new game plan and whatnot. And I think our bottom rung of players is probably inferior to what it was last year or the year before. And our top liners aren't really, or particularly early, aren't bridging that gap. And rising the tide, so to speak. So, St Kilda, Essendon, they showed that if you put us under pressure early, because we don't 100% have our wits about us, we can become exposed, and under pressure, we making critical errors before we're getting into our work. The comments by David King after the succession plan announcement about the 1 to 5% that you may drop off, having this situation in the back of your mind. So far he seems to be vindicated, and a lot of the doubters seem to be vindicated, because it does just seem like a whole team that's 5% off, maybe 10% off at stages, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, I think part of the frustration as a whole is that we got ourselves into a position to win. And I think, myself included, we all honestly, well, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I honestly thought that we were going to run over the top of them, because that's typically what we have done more often than not.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
When we got within 5 points, I was like, here we fucking go. Let's.
Yeah. The crowd was up. The power chant was dusted off. Like, momentum seemed to be fair and square in our favor. But the malaise that you talk about, it's like, I was thinking about it on the day, and this happened throughout, particularly the second, third, fourth quarters, was we were doing such good work in patches, but it was like when you have two magnets and you're trying to connect two negative ends to each other and it just keeps rebounding. That's what it seemed to be. Every time we'd get it to the half forward line, the two negative ends of the magnet would just push each other away, and then the ball would go in the other direction. We didn't maximize the momentum that we had, and coaches and players talk about momentum all the time. Game plans, effort, whatever. The fact of the matter is when you have momentum, you need to maximize on it. And when you don't have momentum, you need to minimize the damage. And when we had the momentum, we didn't maximize it. And again, that's something that we've generally done more often than not in recent times. And that was the thing. We got to within 5 points. We seemed to have everything going for us all over the ground. And we just didn't maximize it. We didn't do the thing that we're more or less accustomed to. And that speaks to a team that is still slightly confused, in my opinion, but has lost the ability, hopefully temporarily, to maximize the momentum when it's in our hands. We just keep giving it back or putting ourselves under unnecessary pressure, whether through unforced errors like out of bounds on the full, like we got to within 5 points or around that mark, draw it back to 11 points or a couple of goals in it. We had the momentum, but I swear we kicked it out in the full 5 times and handed the ball straight back to them within that period. I think you could probably count 10 out in the falls maybe across the whole game, let alone, drop marks by people who you would generally bank on marking them, but also marking opportunities that would give us a shot at goal as well. Again, maximizing that momentum, maximizing your opportunities. It's just not happening, and that mental aspect that you were talking about before has to be in question. On top of the fact the game plan's one thing, and it is funny because when you're forced into a corner, you tend to play more direct. And in stages there, we do, you fuck around with it less and you need to actually do something with it. And that's what gets you back in games. It was really funny how football works like that across the competition, across years. Like when teams are backed into a corner, they tend to simplify it and it tends to pay off more often than not, assuming that they're a half decent side and has a decent spine and decent talent around the park. But then again, on the flip side to that, we seem to have momentum and then we seem to just fuck around with it, allowing St Kilda to rotate back and strengthen their defensive structure while we were pissing around with it in the middle, going sideways instead of forward, just played into their hands.
Yeah. You'd have those occasional moments. I remember there was that one Rosie run, I think, in the first half where he kind of took the ball, had a bounce and kind of ran through the middle, but then it was just like there was just no one ahead. So he kind of like tried to sideways and then sent a handball that I think ended up being a hospital handball or ended up with someone getting tackled anyway. And it just kind of it comes to stoppage where, it's just like the one time that you generate some run through the middle that you just don't, you're so out of sync that you just don't have that no one's ready for it up forward. And there was a lot of times where we'd have a chance or, a kick going inside 50 and it would come to, like, I remember Wangan and Malero taking almost an uncontested mark from a kick going right to, 25 metres out in front of our goal. And it's just like, no one should be uncontested marking when you're putting one up there. It's just
In the hole.
no one's making enough effort in those moments. I know there was even a couple of maybe Ollie Lord ones early where he just didn't compete well enough. He grew into the game obviously, and I'm pretty happy with his return now. But at the time I was like, Jesus Christ, like this isn't a good start for you. Like he just didn't compete against a decent defender, but I can't remember who it was. But he just Ollie
Wilkie.
I don't know if it was Wilkie in that moment, but it could have been. And obviously, Wilkie is a very, very good defender. But for some reason, I should have written it down a bit more succinct for me to bring it up now. I actually just wasn't sure I was going to bring it up. But it was just one of those moments. Josh Sin on the other end, and at the other end of the game when, this was after that, St Kilda had scored that one to get them back out beyond 5 points, but it was like a 30 seconds later from the ensuing centre clearance, and Sin 1-on-1 just wasn't hard enough in that moment, and he's probably, we'll get to the lines in a moment, but there's a few to talk about in the sense of watch list areas, but I mean, the back-breaking goal after we'd gotten within 5 points was that, Wanganeen-Malera getting a free kick, I think, kind of on the half-forward flank near the boundary there, and we were set up. Everyone was back. It was kind of like Wanganeen-Malera is looking for an option, and he kind of looks left and sees Jack Sinclair there, and kind of almost grubbers.
It came off his instep too.
Yeah,
it was,
and Darcy Byrne-Jones gets
a terrible kick.
Yeah, but it's just like that situation shouldn't end up in a goal. From that, and it is just sometimes the chaos of football, and I'm not going to completely blame anyone, but it kind of Sinclair also, those two are probably the most dangerous players that we were looking at as their impact goes. Yeah. Like we talked about in the preview, and those two linking up from an outside 50 kind of chance was just well, Jesus, we should have been, Sinclair shouldn't have gotten that much space, and maybe Byrne-Jones was very close to cutting off the kick, so it's a matter of inches sometimes this game.
And that they mentioned that in commentary as well, it was fingertips. But that's
ultimately
all it is, a game of inches.
Our tracking of players at times, again for that one that was it Hall that marked uncontested after I think was that in the Alir where it was just even Mitch Owens when he snaps one of his goals, he kind of does a little dance around a couple of players after a couple of missed tackles, and it's just a little bit soft in tackling. And again, it's just the chaos of football. But he just has a fair bit of time to get around and get the ball around his body, and it's just little inches and stuff that we're giving more than we get from teams that their intent and purpose. And probably my main thing is you look at one team that's really invested in Ross Lyon and what he's trying to build for the next few years, whether they're going to get to being a great team, who knows, but they're invested in Ross Lyon, whereas we're a team invested in another coach but still being coached by another. It's just a weird situation, and I was fully prepared to watch it hopefully be a success, but so far it's been a failure because we've lost two games that we should, they were both close games because we should be winning them, but that we lost them ultimately. We didn't put the intent and effort wasn't there, and the game we just were. There's a bit of a malaise there, and ultimately that means you've just lost to Essendon and St Kilda. While two teams that put up good performances, because maybe we're a bit too transparent as well. That's just there's a very obvious way to game plan against us, and just know that if you bring the pressure that at the moment a lot of players wilt a little bit too much under it.
Oh, and we'll leave ourselves exposed. So I guess on that topic, it's probably a good time to, again, before we get into the lines, which we keep saying we'll do, but I guess it's a good opportunity to bring up our scores from turnover. I think it's probably important to track the progress of where we sit in that thing. And I mean, this may actually offer some glimmer of hope going forward. Funnily enough, we actually increased our position on the... So it's 4 rounds plus opening round now. Everyone's kind of played a handful of games. So a couple that they should be winning, in their opinion, and a couple that are challenging. Us probably thinking that we should probably be 3-1 as opposed to the opposite. However, we increased our position for points 4 from turnover to 4th in the competition. And again, funnily enough, we actually increased our position on the competition for points scored against from turnover to 12th, whereas we were 15th after round 3. In saying that, although we improved our position and like I can put a positive spin on it, the gap, much like a lot of the criticisms in the Kennedy team, the gap between the best and our worst is too big. So our net score differential probably leaves us in mid-pack. If we're 12th for points against, but 4th for points in our favour off of turnover, it probably leaves us mid-pack. And you need to be in top 3 net points from turnover to be a chance at a premiership. And again, we don't come into this season expecting it, but it kind of paints a picture. So that's where we are after 4 rounds, thanks to James Ives on Twitter, who's tracking this. And again, he put a point to say that it is still a small sample size. It is only 4 rounds, but it's something interesting to track. And it is funny that we actually improved our position on that ledger in comparison to the rest of the competition. So I don't know if that's said with a glimmer of hope, now that we're kind of getting our structure back. But the thing for me is that the points against just says it all. We're 12th in the competition for points scored against after 4 full rounds. That drastically needs to improve and close that gap in comparison to our points 4 off of turnover.
Yeah, the turnover differential in this game closed in. Like I think we were +2 on St Kilda. I think on turnover for the game, but we there was some crucial, and sometimes it'd be interesting to go through and track each and every turnover. When I get paid full time to do this, I will, but I don't at the moment. But it's because there's turnovers and certain.
Well, I mean that first quarter probably makes up a lot of it. To be honest,
felt like the exasperation. There was a lot of, for fuck's sake, from both Jamie and I on that first quarter.
Yeah. And I was nursing quite the hangover on Sunday too.
Just the worst game to watch with a hangover as well. I didn't have one, but I feel for you because I've certainly been there before. Maybe we can start getting to the lines and I can just mention a couple of stats. And do you want to start with the midfield before we go? Because I think that's just where there's.
Okay, let's do it.
I was just going to say, we're still ranked 18th in the competition in contested possessions, 18th in tackles, which obviously this is all over the ground, but a lot of a lot of the contested work comes from some of your ball midfield.
The people who are around the ball the most.
Exactly. Same with tackling. You want some of those guys to, 18th in tackles and 18th in contested possessions is just, rough. And as well as far as clearances go, we're ranked 14th in centre clearances and 15th in stoppage clearances per game, which this game was a game that had 8 goals to 1 from stoppage
From stoppage,
not
unacceptable.
Not in our favour, by the way, just in case someone is listening going, whose was that? Clearly not in our favour. Yes, 8 goals for St Kilda from stoppage to our solitary 1. And I've mentioned it for the last few weeks. Really, I've been really concerned with that area of the game. Centre clearances, and especially when we have Jordan Sweet having a game like he did, with I think he alone,
44 hit out.
I think he had
43 hit outs to 22 overall, but he had 39.
Yeah,
Wines had 4.
Yeah, there was a couple.
Wines actually had more hit outs than his opponents, funnily enough.
There was a couple of right contests where it was a ball. There was one ball in somewhere. I don't know if it was a halfback or something, but it comes in and Wines immediately just gives up and goes to ready to tackle as soon as Marshall takes it out of the air because he's like, I'm not winning this one. So I like that he kind of. He quickly, he had him wrapped up pretty quickly, but I was just like, this is a non-contest. And that's part of the criticism too. You've got taller players now in your structure. Surely you can try and take advantage of their second ruckman, and that example was Rowan Marshall. Fair enough. But even though Wines is from a hit out perspective, racked up more than his opponents. It's just
again, maximising moments of the game. It did that maximise our chance to benefit from those stoppages? Well, I guess the stats would say clearly not. Especially when you've got a Radigalia. And like St Kilda's forward line isn't tall without a Max King. I would have thought that you could utilise an Ollie Lord or even a Radigalia to take advantage of their second ruckman.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
But we preferred an extra midfielder on the ground, essentially, and
which I guess back to the midfield.
Who knows if that'll last?
What is the point of all that when you're getting? I mean, shout out Zach Butters' first game back. Not a classic Zach Butters game, but I think he probably performed okay. And obviously, he's not on the injury report after the game, which is probably the most important part of it for all of us. We wanted to see him come back and get a game in his legs and, not get injured. But it's again another rosy game that kind of like he got him getting the attention he didn't handle it well. How does a team
getting a tag?
Yeah,
you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think people like. I agree with you. I don't think enough people acknowledge the fact that he got a tag. I think people think that he played the game without being tagged. It wasn't a full match tag.
Mm-hmm. It was some.
But Windhager was definitely paying a lot of attention to Rosie.
Yeah, which
I think he's lost on. Again, people are judging on that emotional 2 hours that they watched the game live, and then look at the stats afterwards. But I'm just like to put that out there that he did cop a bit of attention that he had to push through. And just like Zach Butters last year, you got to find a way.
Yeah. And that's partly on the team and the coaching and teammates as well. Like there's a whole kind of room of people that need to, when you're a star player and your captain is getting a tag, you need to kind of...
we had discussions like this last year.
Yeah.
It takes a unit.
Yeah. Yeah, you need the support and then need to kind of... you need others to lift the... if someone's getting a tag, then others lift and make it so that you can't keep tagging that guy. You need to make everyone accountable to everyone and make it so because we've had games we've tried to tag Nick Dacos and it just doesn't work because everyone else kind of lifts and then we move it off, and maybe we should stick with that one at times. But
or they shift him.
Yeah,
Dacos that is.
But I think Rosie had some moments. I just think he gets some undue criticism.
I mean, I could defend Connor Rosie until I'm blue in the face for fear of this becoming a Connor Rosie podcast. I just don't think... I think the overall discontent with the club is affecting particular portions of the fan base and their perspective on Connor Rosie and his captaincy, which I think is unfair holistically. But I think we're now kind of bringing it up nearly weekly in regards to our captain. It's not the type of supporter that I want to be. I want to support people and look at things pragmatically. I think potting a guy when he's down, even though on plenty of occasions we've proven that he's not actually down in the fact that he's out of form, he has down games. I'd prefer to look to support someone who's fresh in the role.
Yeah.
And
taking on a fair...
I could go on...
with last year and this year. I think he's taken over the captaincy at an interesting time in the club's history as far as the coaching. I think if we'd had a new coach last year when he took over as captain, there'd be a different... It's just like the Hinkley malaise has attached itself to Rosie as captain, as he's been named captain in the... And, people just have a stereotypical idea of who they want their captain to be too. Generally, they don't want him to be more... Rosie's a fairly buff player, but he looks more like just his style of, it's a very just visual aesthetic thing that some people just don't like flashy players. They want their captain to be, a robust, whether it be a big backman or a bullish midfielder, and like
A contested beast.
yeah. Rosie's, he's a different style, but I think, it's the midfield malaise overall. I think just comes down to just not getting the right mix, and again, it's I don't know what the right mix is yet, and I'd be interested to. I think actually just Butters being back once he gets his legs under him a bit is going to. You could see a little bit of what Butters could bring. There was that rangy handball he had at one point that did set. I think that set up a goal.
Yeah, it kind of was like an inside-out handball.
It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, kind of went. Yeah.
He kind of he's moving one way and the handball goes another way. Yeah. HORNE-FRANCIS had a great game. Probably I think it is his best.
Fantastic game.
Yeah, in many different facets. But Rosie was, there's a handful of players with 6 tackles for the game, which is there's no player that had more from what I'm quickly looking at. And Rosie was one of them. So he's kind of doing some of those things. It's just he didn't have an exceptional game, and
the pressure acts.
I was hoping you'd bring it up because I didn't actually have him, but I'm assuming he's up there again.
Yeah, he's equal first with Sam Pepper and Zach Butters on 17.
There you go. So it's low because we often see Rosie up a little bit more into the 20s often for pressure acts, but
yes,
I don't think it was. I don't have an exact answer for where I'm at with the midfield. I think Willem Drew still he's kind of just floating a little bit as well. Need to just
Willem's actually my watch for this week.
Oh.
Yeah,
and I know how much that hurts you, being that you had your W.
Yeah, well, I was sitting down and I was watching the game, and I love Willem. I think we had 3 out of 4 WD28 shirts in our row on Sunday, but yeah, so I've got to appreciate Willem when he's up and about, but I've also got to be balanced. And I just think he is, whether it's that like wingers kind of predicament where you're kind of in the graveyard statistically, like we saw with Bergman early last season. Just sometimes you're caught on a defensive wing and you're not actually there to rack up stats, but we said it in last week's main show that he just seems a bit. I'm not sure if we said that he seemed a bit confused or seems just a bit lost,
I think
or lost of a
he
role
doesn't have a focused
to play.
Role, so it's just like he's kind of he's in constantly out of position because he doesn't have, and he's a very we love the play. I mean, he kicked one out in the fourth quarter as well that arrested momentum for St Kilda. So he just wasn't any little moment he had to impact the game. He couldn't quite do it the way that we usually. But he had 8 turnovers as well, which I think almost is the most for the team. So, it's the traditional Willem stats that you would expect him to be at least accruing, even in a game where he doesn't feature a lot, like contested possessions near the bottom. Ground ball gets 1. Tackles, I think he only had 3. He did, which is half of Richards and Pepper's numbers.
Pressure acts was 12, about mid-table for Port Adelaide, where he would usually be, him and Rosie are usually battling it out for pressure acts, leading the team, that is. So that's the thing. It's kind of those statistical markers which tell you that he's typically contributing to the game and what he is cherished for within our setup that just seemed to have eluded him so far this season. Particularly in the last couple of weeks, just, seems to be languishing and slightly ineffectual. And we're not utilizing him in a tagging role either, which is interesting. We commented on Windhager And Windhager's generally got a tagging role, and he did the job predominantly on Rosie. He did spend a bit of time on Butters and JHF throughout the game too. But yeah, Willem's just not they're not utilizing him for that, and whether that's because they're trying to get the other midfielders up and about
Yeah.
and into the season. Obviously, Zach Butters has only just come back. Had to use JHF more in the midfield while Butters was out. And Rosie obviously started the season fantastically well, and had a couple of down weeks. So it's just there's far too many question marks, not just for Willem, but yeah, just like as a whole. And Willem's just another one. And again, that percentage marker off, however you want to put it, and then in conjunction with our bottom rung of players, including a Jackson Mead, who had a down game as well, I thought in this match, and surprisingly, poor in traffic, when I feel that one of his more genuine skills is his work in traffic. Since he's become a more regular contributor to the team. But yeah, I had to bring up Willem because I got to remain balanced, and we both agree that I think his lack of role or his being pushed out to a wing is not really helping him contribute the way that we would want a Willem Drew to contribute.
Yeah. And it could be just there is a few new faces running through there. It's just like getting that mix right with, we like Moraes in his early games. Joe Rick is providing.
Well, and that's a good comparison because Moraes is also on a wing.
Yeah.
So, and he still seems to be finding his way in chains of possession.
Yeah,
his disposal efficiency was down this week. I don't expect a third gamer to be lighting it up every week, but it is a decent comparison with someone who is in our leadership group as well.
Yeah, and Moraes went at 57%, which is relatively low for the team for sure. But Drew only went at 66. So, but yeah, Moraes was still, and I mean his kick into Georgiades, who was trucked out of the goal square,
which I mentioned before. Yeah.
An inefficient disposal, but should have been an efficient one, maybe. So, yeah, and like Moraes is getting involved, Joe Richards getting involved. Joe Berry starting a sub maybe makes sense, but also I would have liked to have seen, like, we've liked his run at times in the, like, I don't know who you would have started as sub instead, but I mean, there's a few people, unfortunately, that are putting their names up for possibly doing that. I don't know if that's where Jackson Mead goes back into that role. I
think Jackson Mead is, in hindsight, I think he's one that may face that kind of treatment, I guess, for want of a better word. As well as that, we did go into the game with a lot of halfbacks, so when Logan Evans was subbed off, it didn't come as to any surprise to me. He was the weakest halfback, if you want to call it, if that's the label you want to put it, at the time. And we brought Berry on to offer a bit more run around the ground. So, but in terms of the midfield, and there's no bigger challenge right now than coming up against Hawthorn, who have suffered an injury to their midfield too. But
yeah, we'll talk about that.
All in all,
preview later on, but
of course. All in all, you just want the leaders to contribute, and unfortunately, from a midfield point of view, they didn't all come to the party.
Yeah, because I mean that's where the work around the stoppage and clearance and everything needs to get better, and there was just so many moments where a sweet tap would come down and there'd be St Kilda players would just be harder at it, and it would be a chaos. There was a lot of chaos kind of moments where the game, like I
There
was
was.
watching the commentary, it was like hey, it's here, and then it's there, and then it's coming back here, and like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It brought him to laughter at one point in time, because then there was a stoppage and they're like, all right, now we can breathe. Like, because it was just ping pong for a moment there.
Yeah. But there was a lot of moments where it was bad decisions or hands by our guys in those midfield moments. And St Kilda would just benefit from less complications within what they were trying to do. They just knew what they were. They just had to stem our tide and just get the ball forward, kind of at all costs. Is kind of how they kind of seem to operate. Take territory a little bit and because they would handball a bit, but they didn't over handball at all. Because
that's it. Yeah, they showed us what we should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was just frustrating watching us kind of, sometimes it wasn't really bad. It was just like we just fumbly hands at the ground balls were just, and a lot of these players are really. We know they can be better at that stuff. So it is just, I don't know what the exact answer is with the midfield. It's just the mix isn't quite right as far as again, what Will and Drew can do and all the other, and bringing Buttersy in again, I think will help in the future. But yeah, I don't have an exact answer.
I'd actually like to see Richards spend a bit more time in the midfield, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously playing a high half forward role. So he sees himself around the ball a lot. And his disposal efficiency doesn't actually reflect it, but I feel across the four quarters, when he did come up the ground and into the midfield chain, his work in traffic was actually quite good, I thought. And he was bursting into space from outside of traffic and then distributing it from there. So it would be interesting for me to see a bit more of him, because as well as that, with this game plan or the ill execution of it, we're not bringing players like Joe Richards, Willie Rioli to an extent into the game, because with the one or two extra handballs sideways, again, allowing St Kilda to structure up down back, our small forwards are just starved of opportunity. And again, when you've got a guy like Willie Rioli, you need to get it there. And from a game plan point of view, my feelings are that we're trying to play a very pretty brand of football when Port Adelaide typically aren't a pretty game of football type club. And we're not necessarily utilizing all of the strengths of any given player on the ground. Like I mentioned it, I think a couple of weeks ago, there's players you can tell who are typically kickers, and then there's players who are typically handballers, and we're forcing kickers to try and handball under pressure, handball in traffic, and there's even stages where you're seeing handballs go the distance that they could kick it, get a mark and relieve pressure while gaining territory, or not necessarily even gaining territory, just changing angles. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel. And I guess it's exasperated through the middle because, again, they're around the ball. They're doing most of the work in transition. Just seems that they're trying to be very pretty when sometimes you just need to simplify it and utilize the strengths of any given person on the field when in possession of the ball. If you've got a ball in a kicker's hands, let them fucking kick it. But that person also needs to have the presence of mind in the match situation to kick it and relieve pressure by finding a target.
Yeah.
To mark.
Yeah, we do look like an overcoached team at the moment. Like too many players thinking about the instructions and what the idea is behind it, rather than just playing the game on its merits in any given moment. Because you could see when we just did start to open up and play the game on its merits more. When Willie Rioli did get some of the ball high half forward, going into midfield, he had two of the most exquisite kicks inside 50 that I've seen.
Oh yeah. To George really, on the lead is one that sticks in my mind. Yeah, that's exactly right. You need to bring those players, especially if they can punish and they have a proven record of punishing opposition, whether it be with disposal, like you mentioned, or putting it on the scoreboard themselves.
Yeah,
we didn't allow ourselves to do that. enough. Just played into St Kilda, who would be a well-drilled defensive team.
Yeah. Maybe a good time to move on to the forwards because, geez, it's a fascinating one to think about when you, as you started kind of the episode with talking about if I told you these guys had kicked all these goals and all the marks inside 50 we took, I mean, what a weird game to dissect in that sense because objectively you don't have many complaints. Your two big forwards, 6 goals between them. Jason Horne-Francis as the third big forward kicks 3, so it makes it 9 between the 3 of them. That's a recipe towards a win, but then there's not really anything else apart from them. So,
no,
that's
except for a very inaccurate Sam Powell-Pepper who kicked 1 goal 3.
I will say, as much as I loved Mitch's game, and I don't have many criticisms for Mitch because led well, moved his defenders around well, like his movement to set up his own leads, like cheating back and forward. I think we did notice at one point there was a kick, I think, from Jace Burgoyne going inside 50 that should have gone. Like Mitch cheated back, whereas Jace put it out.
Thinking he was going we saw that at ground level, didn't we?
Yeah, because I kind of said, well, why can't our forwards get in front? And then you kind of went, I think he actually, and watching it back, he did kind of try to make a move, and but it was just it's a classic thing of in previous years of like players.
It's a little bit of disconnect.
Yeah, but Mitch did genuinely get make a lot of leading space for himself. Lord found space for himself as he grew into the game quite well. Lord, and kicked accurately, which we reasonably accurately, both around the body and with a couple of kicks in front. Which was obviously that we, in his early years, was the one thing. It was just like he can take a mark, but he can't fucking kick it for shit. But he actually looked all right, which is good to see. But Mitch missed a couple that he should be, and ultimately could have. I'm not going to say Mitch cost us the game because that's a very, very dumb fan thing to say.
Oh, but he didn't cost us the game, but he could have absolutely tore a new one.
Yeah, that's probably my one.
It was there for the taking.
He's had bags there for the taking multiple times in his Essendon he could have had a bag too. This week could have had a bag. He's gonna tear it open at some point because he's got that within him and he looks confident as far as his movement and everything goes. And his goal kicking in games can go from good to bad so quickly, because he kicked one in that last quarter from that pocket that he missed earlier, and then he misses one that's out in front as well. But then he's kicking some beauty. He kicked some beauties on the weekend as well. I think one of the commentators called him Dead-Eye Dick at one point. So
Dead-Eye Dick stuff.
But he did shank one of the worst ones I think I've seen him kick. I think
from a similar spot, but down the other end.
Yeah. He kind of just
immediately after he kicked one out in the full before that as well, trying to snap one from deep in the pocket, and just like Sean Burgoyne said in commentary, just take it over for a throw-in, get a reset,
play the percent,
or bulk, fake out the defender and center it. Again, he's only 23, but the half chances of marks as well that went begging, whether it be speckies or legitimate contested marks.
One on the boundary that he almost took, he almost had another car. That one was a fucking...
Yeah, everyone got halfway out of their seat, and then it's just... But yeah, he's so close. And pound for pound, he shits all over Caminiti. As an extension of that, having an Ollie Lord in the side, taking Wilkie, which we mentioned, I think in the main show and then in the squad show, just allows Georgiades to shit all over a second defender. Obviously, good sides have a couple of good, genuine key defenders, which he'll have to combat throughout the season. But that's the situation that he found himself in. By and large, he made Caminiti look second rate. And like we said, he didn't cost us the game, but he could have absolutely tore it apart, which was promising. From a forward structure point of view, I love it. That's our lot. Obviously, the question of Lukosius in a perfect world comes into it, and how that would look, having the tall forward in Lord and then the two mediums with Georgiades and Lukosius. That's an interesting question, but it's something that we don't even have as an option yet. So in terms of players that we have at our disposal, that's ideal, in my opinion. Lord can compete. He can take the number one defender. As well as that, love his passion. Like every goal that he kicked, particularly his first goal, just out and out.
Yeah. Fist bumps,
Fantastic passion. Yeah. Like just for the contest, teammates, obviously, like in those moments, like you can tell that the team as a whole was connected. Like there's no questions about that. They just need to fucking sort out their skills. And then we obviously saw HORNE-FRANCIS spend a bit more time there. So all of a sudden, as a defensive unit coming up against that, you're like, for fuck's sake, like we're spread pretty thin. And unfortunately, yeah, Peps was inaccurate. He had plenty of chances. But like I mentioned before, without that, a bit more fluency in transition up the field, like Rioli doesn't get nearly enough opportunities. Richards, DBJ gave himself an option and couldn't fucking keep the distance. But yeah, so in the end, I like the forward structure. I think that can serve us well if we sort our shit out across the field. We just need to tweak it to allow the work on the ground to be done and some of that magic to happen at ground level. Joe Richards did find himself in and around some crumbs, but credit to St Kilda, they kind of shut that space down immediately, and he found himself kind of kicking into smothers and things like that. Had we moved the ball inside 50 with a bit more fluency in those stages, would there be as many St Kilda defenders around to smother those balls and apply that much pressure? Potentially not. I'm not sure, but that's the yin and the yang of it. Like from a tool forward setup, I'm buoyed by what I saw. I think we need to give better supply to involve the whole forward unit rather than just a few.
Yeah. It is crazy that we took the, what was it, 14 marks inside 50 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But the efficiency inside 50 number, because it's interesting what the disposal efficiency between the teams was, 1.1% between them. So 71.1% for us, 70% for St Kilda. But then you get to efficiency inside 50. St Kilda's 59.1 versus our 44.8. So it's really just, they had far less opportunity, obviously, with our 58 versus 44. But it came in with their run off, the guys, when they got their run going to get it inside 50, and they were just able to pick us apart and find that space. And we'll talk about the defense in a moment. But I was okay with some of them. Some of them I'm got some watch on. That's where my watch will come. I wanted to spotlight HORNE-FRANCIS. I think we kind of touched on it in the midfield, but I thought it was just interesting because I had my watch on him last week. I wanted to see how he responded to some criticism, both probably within the walls, hopefully constructive, obviously, but then obviously media criticism about body language and whatnot. I think he responded as best as he could. His efforts in midfield are really good. And he was kind of the one, like watching the replay especially, he was clunking some marks, some really good contested marks as well at times that just showed that there's no excuse for where at least Sam Powell-Pepper had dropped a couple of gimmies in the first quarter, DBJ with that 1.5 forward flank as well. In moments it just killed moments that we actually looked like we were transitioning the ball okay, and then we just fucking drop a mark. There was that one it was very comedic because Mitch ended up taking the mark, but that one where we were watching it together, I think. He goes to mark it out in front of him.
Oh,
he just closes his hands on the ball. The ball's there, and then he juggles it and ends up marking it because he's Mitch Georgiades. He does what he wants, but almost. But yeah, it's just like there was so many moments with like just bad hands issues, and whereas Jason HORNE-FRANCIS was taking marks almost at every opportunity he could, and the ones he didn't were usually flies and really half chances. He didn't drop any, and he had his drop issues last week at Marvel as well. But on this one he didn't, and he kind of showed that there was a lot of guys that were letting themselves down because he was marking them quite well, regardless of the situation, whether it be a chest mark on the lead, contested mark above head, above the heads. Like it was all happening for him, and obviously he kicked the 3 goals. And it's probably a benefit, and hopefully a benefit going forward if we can try to turn the season around a bit. In having Butters back is like being able to do the Horne-Francis down forward thing a little bit more, because he does present a third, medium, big. He plays big as a forward. Clearly, his body, just the way he bodies off defenders. We've seen it time and time again now in his time at Port Adelaide. Like, he can play a decent cosplay as a key forward, because he's very, very good, and obviously his kicking is reasonable as well. He misses one here and there occasionally. You go, geez, how did you miss that one? But generally, more often than not, his conversion rate's good when he gets those opportunities. So, obviously, he's going to feature in my votes later. So I'll leave the stats till then. But overall, I just wanted to spotlight Horne-Francis, because I think he had a really good bounce back game, and obviously,
and he copped it too.
Yeah,
fairly or unfairly is in the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously err to the side of unfairly. Copped it all week, but I mean, to be frank, like, he fucking turned it on. Like, that's Jason Horne-Francis, how you want him to be, because it was not only the flashy stuff, it was tackling. And there was one point there where he took down Rowan Marshall early in the contest, and that's the type of thing. Like, Rowan Marshall still had his hands free, but JHF took him around the waist, which I fucking a pet peeve of mine. And again, like we were talking about in the first couple of quarters, is it just baffles me across the AFL too, but obviously in our games, because I care about our games, just the fact that people don't attack the hips and they constantly get sucked into, whether it be candy selling on a low bar or a high bar. Like, I'm just fucking, like, it mustn't be as easy as what I think it is, but just fucking go for the hips, because in that moment, Jace, he tackled Rowan Marshall around the hips. Marshall had his hands free, but he still affected the disposal enough. I think we might have even turned it over, or nullified that danger and created a stoppage off the back of it. But it was that intent that he showed fairly early in the piece that just complemented the stuff that we are accustomed to, whether it be the explosion from stoppage or congestion, or the marking inside forward 50, or the goal kicking. There was the balance to it all, defensively and offensively, that stood out. And what we all kind of hope for each week, while still being cognizant to the fact that he is 21 years old. 22.6 champion data rating too, just as a, not to get into the stats like you mentioned, but that kind of numbers tends to be upper echelons across the competition for each round.
Yeah, if you get into the 20s, you're having a pretty good week. And all those stats, I think that ones we'll mention later on, speak to that, because he was really even across the board with a lot of efforts, across a lot of different statistical categories. So I'm looking forward to getting to those after. But yeah, that was my spotlight. I was just like, he's had a tough week. Questions have been asked, not an overly tough. Like, I think we all, again, like I said last week when I put him on my watch list, I'm like, I'm perfectly comfortable with the fact that this guy's going to be part of our squad for a long time to come, and have no issues and worries about his future progress. I was just really intrigued about how he'd bounce back, and he bounced back in the best form possible. It just sucks that we couldn't get the result based off of his efforts, because it's the kind of effort that deserved more of a result. But he just needed a few more of the stars to go with him. But I am excited that with Butters being back a bit earlier than expected, and getting the run under his legs, that allows us that little bit of that flexibility with Horne-Francis being able to play down forward. Because we did, overall, I mean, just to finish on the forward line, like all those metrics in the forward line, apart from maybe missing a couple of those goals, were and the efficiency at times were good. Like, we got a lot of numbers, happy numbers, like double-digit marks inside 50, multiple forwards kicking bags of 3. Those are good pillars to winning a game of football. It's just we didn't get enough around that. The efficiency inside 50, apart from because there wasn't many goals from general play and stuff like that, which was really the goal of the week is going to be an interesting one, and it's going to be more.
I think that says it all. Yeah,
We just didn't
in
get
regards to our midfield transition.
Yeah, whereas
and our comments on the midfield.
Whereas they got a lot of nice goals from just different avenues towards goal, considering some of the forward line injuries they're dealing with. So, it might be a good time to move to the defense and talk about some of how that went for us, because I think it was a really weird game for me. Again, I thought Asava applied himself quite well at times. Copped a knee to the back of the head for his efforts.
So did I.
Aaliyah, I think, was good.
I think
unlucky.
I think Aaliyah. Oh, sorry. What was that?
I was just saying he was very unlucky with some of the way he was fucking umpired.
I think Aaliyah is
impossible for him to. Yeah, it just made it impossible. Like I wish defenders that used to defend Charlie Dixon would get umpired the way Aaliyah was on the weekend. Because
and my opinion of Sunday games having B grade umpires still stands. Like we had the B team.
You said that within 5 minutes of the game start. Like you were like, "Oh, we got the B team today."
Well, it was just ridiculous. Like the first free kick I think of the game was against Aaliyah for just genuinely being stronger in the contest. And it was a shot at goal too. Thankfully, it ended up in a behind in that instance. But
it should have been he gets a high percentage chance from Mitchell.
It was. Yeah. Thank fuck that. Yeah.
51 seconds in,
7-goal.
Looking at the X score. The first quarter, which X score didn't give us a full end of game score.
I saw you comment.
I replied. I was just like
on that. Yeah, that's interesting. Don't think they even replied.
No, and look, I know it's something that I think is just someone's passion project. So I appreciate what they do. But I did grab the first quarter one just to get a bit of an idea of Mitch Owens very high percentage chance with 51 seconds on the clock. So that just started the game in a bad way for both of us, I think. But again, it wasn't an indictment on Lear. It's just like, the commentators are kind of like, it's just weird. But it's just that's like I don't know what he's meant.
Speaking of Mark Ricciuto, he was one of the biggest proponents of calling out the umpires in their poor adjudication of him just being stronger in contests. And I've seen it plenty of times before.
Ricciuto was backing us a little bit in some of those situations. He's like, that's not a free. Like, he's multiple times, even that one at the start of the third quarter as well. He's just like, that was ridiculous. Like, and I think most of the commentary team on that one at the start of the third quarter were like, that's just not a free.
Yeah,
good defense.
He ran back with the flight. He got all ball with the spoil.
Yeah,
and as in many contests across every fucking game of Australian rules football, he landed on his opponent. But that does not, in my opinion, constitute a chopping of the arms, front-on contact. The way it was executed was how you would want a defender to execute it in that situation. I just think sometimes the way...
What are they meant to do? Like, that's just like, I want umpires to succinctly explain to me what was the alternate situation there. Does he just back... Because you're asking him...
Does he just watch a guy mark it? Like,
that's what they're telling me they need to do. Like, if they can't body up, then what are they...
Yeah. Just, and the commentators also mentioned that Lear is smart in his body use pre-contest.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear poor umpires get sucked into maybe how it looks without actually thinking rationally and just going, he's stronger in a contest and our game is a contested, combative game. I think he cops some unfair adjudication at times because of that, because of his good use of his body. And when people go, he's not a good lockdown defender or whatnot, things to that effect, is he able to really portray that on field without without costing us free kicks against? Not because it's his fault, but because he's getting adjudicated in this weird way. I don't know. Woe is me and whatnot. But I thought, to balance that out, we have already mentioned that the first quarter, there was a couple of instances where he probably let himself down. But from that point onwards, I thought he was one of the better players on the ground.
Yeah.
Again, in that kind of general defender's role,
And again,
intercept
that first
possessions.
quarter
It's
was like an
nothing.
overwhelming. They're getting sold out by the lack of pressure upfield. Like we've talked about that time and
I
time
agree.
again, and
Yeah.
listeners are probably sick of us talking about it. We're like, this defense can only do as much as it can when the upfield pressure just isn't helping, and they're under an onslaught of easy ball use coming in. So,
Yeah.
I think Asava's 1%ers were like, I think he had 12 1%ers, like just fucking,
Through the fucking roof.
which,
Yeah.
one of them was
Let me
just
bring it
getting
up. 12. Yeah, Asava had 12 1%ers, and the next best is 5 from Lockie
Yeah.
Jones.
Yeah.
11 of those 1%ers were spoils by Asava. And that's the thing. Beside the fact that he took a few genuine contested marks, which are 4 contested marks, which is top 3, equals second. That type of role, he let himself down a couple of times with some of his disposal when he's trying to kind of be a bit too cute by foot
I think
and turn the ball
point that
over.
he might have been going at 100% until he got kneed in the head. So I don't know if that was.
Yeah, well, hey,
that might have
yeah,
been the Stav Mega
that's a
fan
fair
one.
call.
Yeah, but and not that there's anything to that. It's just like it is just funny if that's true. But that's just a random Twitter comment I've seen, so I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. But yeah, he's ball. But I don't think any of us were going into any game with Asava still thinking he's going to be an elite ball user. We want him to do the defensive job, and I think in that sense he's still provided.
I just want him to keep it simple.
Yeah,
he's a big body. He can take a big forward. Just keep it fucking simple.
And his effort.
You're not a ball user. Really, that's not your role.
Yeah. I thought I have no issue with him and Aaliyah in the defense at the moment. Where my issue comes is the likes of Logan Evans and Josh Sin at the moment, Lockie Jones to a certain extent, just all of them. Bergman, I'm okay. Like I'm happy with. I thought he had a fantastic game overall. But yeah, Logan Evans is actually my watch for the week. Now that I'm getting to it, I am genuinely bordering on he might need a run in the twos. Because the fact he got subbed off.
I don't think that would be an outlying opinion.
Yeah, and
across the
I
fan
love
base.
the kid, and I think his rise from draftee to being one of our better players across this back half of last year is really a really good story. But now there's a little bit of sophomore blues going on here, and sophomore blues, second year blues, sophomore slump. Just doing the whole rocket surgeon.
Just melding terminology.
I ain't no rocket surgeon, I'll tell you that. He's my watch at the moment because I think some of the things he was doing well.
He looks confused too.
He looks confused. He's missing marks. He dropped a mark, but then he took a great intercept mark, but then kicked it out in the full. Just it's not clicking for him at the moment. And whether he's putting in a little bit undue pressure on himself, I don't know. But I certainly have.
It's definitely a possibility. He's fucking 19.
Exactly. So maybe he's had the full preseason to prepare and hasn't just been thrust into it and had to go off instinct. He's had too much time to think about it, and maybe there's just a little bit easy in his own head. I don't know. Josh Sin, I liked a lot of what he did with the ball, when he had the ball in hand. When he didn't was when he kind of got lost in his defensive positioning and let that last goal that St Kilda kicked was he was 1-on-1 and got beaten, but then he kind of just got lost in.
It was almost like he was surprised that Collard was the forward put body on and protected the ball drop. It was
dangerous all game. He was there. He's there and about.
Yeah, he did. He was. He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked damaging at times, and Sin, by and large, he got himself into a decent position. But yeah, he just got outmarked, and he looked super surprised.
What the fuck?
You just need to be a bit stronger in that contest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I don't know
perhaps with the defense, but I'm. It's not that I doubt any of the skills in any of those guys. It's just that their development just isn't quite where it needs to be at the moment, and I don't know who. Yeah, Josh.
And those two guys that you brought up,
coming out of, there was some lead kicks from Josh Sin again, like, and long rangy kicks to open up the field out to the wing, like angled kicks to really open things up. So he's got some real benefits to that rebound game, but he gets lost when he doesn't have the ball at the moment, and that's something that just needs coaching. But how much you can afford to carry in that sense. It's if Josh Sin, if Logan Evans was playing the way he was last year, it might cover for some of that. But this was when both of those guys are really down as far as the defensive positioning stuff goes. Lockie Jones, he had his moment. Otherwise, I'm probably more okay with Lockie Jones than I am either of those other two.
Much like Ollie Lord, I thought he grew into the game.
Yeah,
he actually handled the ball a lot better than some other people on the day, and managed to break lines and break through congestion and get some disposals away. A couple of moments that he'd like to get back, particularly a direct goal from his mistake, but I thought he grew into the game.
I just feel bad for him.
We just crave a consistent
those
run.
Moments that he just keeps getting the Lockie Jones moment that looks really just so highlightable because he's kicked it out in the full and then he kicks a goal.
My brain, huh? I'm only just getting started. I guess as fans, we just want to see him get a consistent run. To stop getting injured, for fuck's sake, and have a consistent run at it, because continuity in anything is beneficial to a tradesman. But when going back to Josh Sin and Logan Evans, it is important to note that they're both 20 sub 20 or whatever games into their AFL careers. I know Josh Sin has been on the list for quite a number of years, and some people are probably feeling a bit impatient. They just want him to be the finished product right now. But at the end of the day, he's inexperienced. But what I think is he needs to remember is that he's a defender first and a ball user second. If he's being picked in the defensive line, he needs to make his defensive onward. And to go back on a Houston, who we have lost, we all know how well Houston used the ball. That's obviously well documented, but he didn't allow himself to be beaten defensively either, and was quite a good contested mark from Dan Houston. So these are the levels that even Kane Farrell has the lapses, but he's kind of middling to above average, in my opinion, in his role. And he even has said on radio and interviews, like, he's now needing to take that extra half a step or full step, however you want to bridge that small gap between him and Houston. But in terms of Sin and Evans, that's a much larger gap in terms of execution and defensive application that they need to remember that's what they're there for first. It's all well and good, like Sin went at 83.3% disposal efficiency, but 425 meters gained. But you need to defend, like, you're a defender first and a ball user second, in my opinion.
Because he only took a couple of hits. He should have had more in it, because you want to compare just Jones and Sin. Not that they're the same player, but Jones, similar disposal efficiency, but he took had 10 intercepts versus Sin having 2. And Sin needs to have, in a game like that,
7 ground ball gets for Lucky Jones as well.
Yeah, there you go.
7 ground ball gets for Jones to 1 in Sin's regard.
So Sin had 1 ground ball get and two intercepts. It's just not good enough for a player where he was and how the game was going. That's probably why some of their, like St Kilda's forward half efficiency was better too, because they're just not getting there's not enough guys doing it. I don't know. I should look at Logan Evans' numbers too, but Logan Evans only had 2 intercepts. I don't know what his their ground ball gets were, but you've got a few
0.
Yeah, so you got a few guys that just aren't doing enough on the defensive end, and that's partly because their positioning was bad too. Just for me on the eye test, I just didn't like the way they just found themselves lost when balls were coming in, so everyone wants to beat down Lockie Jones a lot, but he had the 5 1%ers and 10 intercepts, and then still used the ball at almost 85% when he had it. So he's kind of playing his role. And he's still got learning to do too, Lockie Jones, because he's had his injuries and hasn't played as many games in the last few years since he got drafted that we may have hoped for. But he's at least kind of developing some of those areas of his game we want him to. So we need those other guys.
And he's crossed the 50 game marker
again
as well.
Took a few more years, maybe weeks and years to do that. But yeah, he's yeah. So we need that, and those other guys, as much as what we want them to be, using the ball well when they have it. Again, it's when you don't have the ball. There's a lot of. It's sometimes where your game is really rounded out and your impact is felt is when you don't have it sometimes as well. So yeah, that's where my Logan Evans is my watch, but Josh Sin was up there for me as well. And anyone that's listened to the podcast in the last 18 months knows I love Josh Sin and what he could bring. But he just needs to work on some of those other.
Yeah, it's a guy with a lot of talent that is just inexperienced. It's a growth opportunity, and like we mentioned in the first couple of weeks, he did I thought some great defensive jobs. Particularly, we mentioned Bobby Hill. Until the game was all fucking over 70 points, the deficit. Bobby Hill cashed in versus Collingwood, but I thought Sin did a couple of. So this happens with inexperience. He can have two great defensive games of keeping small forwards quiet in the first 2 weeks, and then you have a trough. Again, this is something that, like, this is why I don't expect us to win the premiership this year. And some people's reactions to our side and our results make it seem like they do. When I think that's just,
But also they don't.
Sky.
Because Ken Hinkley's coach, so it's just like
it's a real oxymoron kind of fucking brain tangle.
Catch-22 stuff.
Yeah, common. Yeah. In terms of the defensive unit as a whole, I did notice that our exit from the goal line, like defensive goal square, like our kick-ins. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out that. Yeah, our kick-ins, I feel like we're being a bit more, I wouldn't say unpredictable. I just feel like we're mixing up our plans more. I feel that in the past, we've been very, very predictable with our kick-ins, and kind of just a one-way street or a one-trick pony in that regard. And obviously there were moments throughout the last few years where we did, chuck off a short kick or whatever it may be. But by and large, we were very predictable. But I feel that we're kind of trying to adapt to the match or who's taking the kick in and, just changing things up a bit more regularly from a kick-in opportunity than we have done so in previous years. That's just a general observation that I made.
Yeah, there was a couple of times on the weekend I thought we did, when I was watching the replay yesterday, sometimes when, there was a few options short that opened up and we took one but quickly moved it, or sometimes they do just go long down. But yeah, there's the personnel taking them too. I don't know if Farrell takes a few, but I think did Evans take a few as well early in the game, or am I thinking of last week? I don't know if he's taken any. But there was
it's funny. I brought it up, but I didn't actually pay attention to it. I think Jace Burgoyne also did,
So I like that. But yeah, it's I didn't have any issues because there's been years in the past where I've really worried about our game coming out of the defensive goal square, but it's actually not.
Yeah, particularly when we've been under pressure and up against it. Yeah, you're just like again, like they know where we're going. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they try to get that first kick out and then find, and maybe that's because they do know. As far as when those guys have the ball in hand, they are decent ball users. So, again, Josh Sin did have a couple of good kicks out of the defensive 50, and with his big raking boot, he did gain some territory as I think you mentioned, his 425 metres gained, for a guy that, that's fairly up there for our team. I think might be third best, just having a quick look. I think it is. I think there's only 3 guys that even cleared 400, and he's one of them. So, there's different avenues that they're utilizing to come out of the different. So it's just it gets bogged down in midfield more than anything sometimes. So did you have any other notes on defense, or were you ready to get into some categories and stats and all that fun stuff?
No, that's it. let's move on.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Gray at his best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks truly.
Robbie! Let him entertain you!
Just tickles my taint, that stuff. Wilson Gray Award, of course, first up. A real a decent game for this, actually, when I was watching the replay more so. There was one on the night on the day that you were like, get my phone out, I need to timestamp this, and I can't remember which one that was. I don't think it's the one.
I can tell you after.
Yeah. I'm going with Mitch Georgiades' tackle on the forward 50 to set up, and eventually set up Ollie Lord for his goal.
Yeah.
Ball was disposed of. That's holding the ball.
Come back on, Stan.
Georgiades. Quick release kick is a really good one, and Lord comes at him.
But how you want to receive it as a key forward. So you love seeing that. Up the ground. Playing the tackle.
Just a great, because it's one of those things we know Mitch can do that stuff, but for him to have a chase down tackle to catch someone just absolutely, stoned, holding the ball was a really great moment just for all the roundabout things of Mitch's game, whether it be these setup work with the leads and all that stuff we talked about before. For him to also have that, I thought was really great. And we love a good tackle. I'm sorry, I should round back. He also won last week for our Wilson Gray nomination for his Air Mitch, as I'd labelled it, his mark last week, which obviously...
What a surprise.
You said you were taking, it was possession
low-hanging fruit.
9/10 of the law, low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
A really great win, but I'm throwing Mitch up there again for a very different part of the game, but also it's really fun to kind of have back-to-back nominations for Mitch that show varying areas of his game. So, Mitch's tackle, catching... I can't actually think of the player it was, catching someone holding the ball from St Kilda to obviously set up Lord's goal shortly after.
Yeah, beautiful suggestion. So just before I nominate mine, it was DBJ's rundown tackle in the first quarter that eventually led to him not even scoring. Fuck's sake! That I was just like, I couldn't get my phone out when I was just waxing lyrical. But definitely essence of the Wilson Gray Award. But my nomination, mine was obviously going to be yours if you nominated the one that I was going to nominate, and that's JHF's pack mark across the front.
Georgiades and HORNE-FRANCIS. That's a good jump at the footy.
Doing it in all parts, lining up for his third.
Stand. That's your line. Stand.
In the second quarter as well, with a minute 20-ish on the clock. Again, Mitch involved in that marking opportunity too in a pack situation, and JHF just comes across the front and sticks it, like you mentioned in your spotlight. Kicks truly to get us, give us some momentum heading into half time, only for it to be fucking nullified by a stupid free kick first thing in the third quarter. But good JHF areas, a good pack mark coming across the front. Something that he teased, was it in the Collingwood and Richmond games? But secured it in this one.
Yeah, his marking and his game awareness in this game was really fucking good. I really, Jason Horne-Francis just might be quickly becoming. I mean, he's just been a favourite right away, but he's just a guy that in my card collecting, I'm looking for Jason Horne-Francis cards above most. That kind of stuff. He just tickles me. So, in this game, some of those moments was just everything he was doing was great. So, a good couple of Wilson Gray noms there with Mitch and JHF, who are two fan favourites, I think, as well. So, it'll be an interesting.
Fuck yeah!
This one will be a bit more of an interesting week. I'd be interested to see how this one pans out. I think going into last week, we were like, Air Mitch is probably winning. But this week, I'm a little bit more this could. I'd be wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 57-43 kind of vote kind of week. So
Me too.
You know, Mitch won with I think 85% of the votes. Shout out to everyone that gave me some love with the Joe Richards dance steps. Yeah.
And just on that, and for our next segment as well, like if make your suggestions too, anyone listening or watching.
Yeah.
If you catch the Creed on socials, obviously Twitter is _the Creed, Instagram is _the Creed, or Facebook, obviously. If you catch Dave's post-match post, feel free to make a suggestion. Tell us who you think we should nominate, just on that topic.
Yeah,
a couple of good ones there.
Because sometimes I'm genuinely torn as to what I'm going to pick. And if someone out there says that they really like the moment, that might be the thing that tips me in a certain direction. So, and might be the same for Jamie as well if he sees it. So, we're both love the interactions that we get, whether you're a Port fan or not, as we've had on posts in recent weeks.
Recently, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I always like that.
Kind of makes me happy.
And I'm like, if you're universally liked, you're not doing something right in the sports fan media space. Fan media space in particular. So,
it's funny.
Anyway, let's get to the goal of the week.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint. Stevie Mobley. What a time! Oh! He is floating on air now.
Just hearing that commentary makes me smile. Alrighty, you get to go first with the goal of the week. I found this one really interesting because it was just the set shot regatta. It seemed like for me, just trying to pick my goal. But
definitely.
I'm interested to see where you go with yours before I get to mine.
Oh, similar sentiments to Wilson Gray last week. It's kind of low hanging fruit, and the commentary also helps in regards to it. But it's George's goal from the pocket in the third quarter, tight angle, and the camera's right behind his back. Obviously gets the hit up from Ollie Lord.
Officiating umpire can't see that.
He's had a good afternoon except for this bit. Mitch Georgiades. And that is better. Well done.
Not at all. It's just get tackled over the line. You're that close to it, the pressure on. But Georgiades takes his moment. Just what Port Adelaide need.
Great finish.
And kicks truly. Great commentary by Matt Hill as well. That was the Deadeye Dick stuff that you were talking about earlier. Just on Matt Hill though, the hearing the sting also reminded me that just a cricketer's irk, anytime a ball broke left or right, he called it a leg break. When in actual fact, on more occasions than not, they were an off break, just to be pedantic, to be shallow and pedantic. But apart from that, love Matt Hill's commentary, and especially in that moment, he definitely added to the occasion. So that's my nom.
I love that. That's good. I had a couple to choose from. I'm going with actually it's going to be Mitch, 2 for 2. The one in the fourth quarter, I believe it was. It has to be because I should be remembering this better actually from my notes, but it was from a pocket that he missed one earlier in the game, the kind of the scoreboard pocket, so to speak. And it kind of just the moment it was when we really started making a concerted effort to come back and really put the pressure on in that last quarter. And it felt like a moment, but unfortunately it didn't end up being. But it's Mitch from the Hill pocket in the fourth quarter.
The noise will tell you. Oh yeah. That is absolutely perfect.
Geez, it was mature by Mead. Go back, take your time, wait for something to pop up.
Yeah.
But the detail that St Kilda had there was really poor.
And you know what? If you're Caminiti, you get what you deserve because you haven't got a finger on him. So put some body into him. You know he's got you on the lead. You've got to do better than that.
Just a really, again, it kind of frustrated me at the time because I was just like, why couldn't you have kicked that one that you missed earlier? But it was a really good set shot, and
match situation as well.
Yeah, that was part of it for me too. It was just like it really like the moment it was building at the time, and I thought we thought we were going to run over the top, which wasn't to be. But Mitch certainly wasn't to blame in that situation. Again, he missed a few early, but he was the reason we were in the game at all as well. So I love that we've got two Mitches. Mitch v Mitch, Dead-Eye Dick versus Dead-Eye Dick, I guess. I'll have to figure out which
plus a Mitch.
Yeah.
Plus a Mitch for Wilson Gray too. So it's a real Georgiadis type.
He had a great game in many facets. I almost the other thing with that Mitch, I will say the other thing with that one in the pocket, part of it was his work to set up because he kind of worked his defender he kind of did a little loop-de-loop in the goal square and then just shot out for the lead in the pocket there. And again, the scoreboard kind of pocket. I loved all the work that went into it. And then obviously the finish was fantastic. So Mitch v Mitch, a lot of Mitch in the categories this week, which we love. Like if that can continue throughout the year, it probably means our year is hopefully improving a little bit at least. Because I think there's again a lot of signs to some things that we can be excited for this year, even if the year isn't going to be a great one. Mitch is certainly building to another great year and hopefully progressing to be the player we want from him for the next hopefully a fair few more years in Port Adelaide colours. Anyway, let's get to the votes because I'm really excited to talk about some of these stats. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. I'm going to change that at some point.
Player?
It's just like, it's my voice breaking. It's just like doing my dick in. Anyway, I'll go first in the votes this week. Really interesting week to try to work out the ranking of my votes and even just some of who was going to go in there. It's funny, honourable mention, and I don't think I was actually ever going to get him in there, but I kind of wanted to at one point when I was just thinking about, and it's more maybe just because I wanted to bite back at some of the people that really don't like him at times, but thought about trying to give Asava the one spot at one point just because the 1% of numbers were off the charts and like genuinely think his efforts were really good, and but I couldn't quite get him there. But an honourable mention just for Asava. It's sometimes you miss defenders a lot in votes because there's so many midfielders you get in, and depending on the week, some weeks we have where there's 5 midfielders that could be best on ground, and you just end up ranking midfielders, and even though a defender has had a good game, so honourable mention to Asava. In the one spot. And this kind of line could have got him 4 or 5 most a lot of weeks last year. But I've got Butters in the one spot, and I probably relegated him because I wanted more from him in the first quarter. Apart from the fracas was fun, like we enjoyed that. But it was apart from that, it was just like there was a lot of guys that let themselves down in that first quarter, and I think Butters was. And again, he's come back from injury, so I shouldn't be but he was out there. As long as guys are out there, you want them to play. And I think he did show signs of, the good Butters, which is why I've got him in there as well. 30 disposals, 14 contested possessions, which is, classic Butters line as well. 9 clearances, 5 tackles, 8 inside 50, 73% disposal. Like really good stuff. It's just like, again, the midfield malaise is something that we're critical of. And I think he was a little bit a part of it on the day, a little bit. So there's I couldn't get him. And there's guys up the votes that I'll get to in a moment that I wanted to give more love to. So Butters just ended up in the one spot for me. So, Aaliyah in the 2 spot, 18 disposals, 88% efficiency, 12 intercepts, 9 marks, which 5 of those were contested. Should have been more like he had 5 frees against, which I think we decided maybe only one of those was legitimate. So, he was quite unlucky in some of the maybe turnovers or freeze against, whatever you want to clarify that as. He was unlucky in that sense. But he also had 4 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s, almost 400 game. Like, he was doing a lot of stuff beyond just that, like the core of his game and the defending. He was getting up the field a bit and taking part, and kind of the comeback stuff was a lot to do with what he was doing outside of his defending, his defensive duty as well. So, I think he actually had a sneaky great Aaliyah game in a lot of aspects, and unfortunately just got highlighted. And some of the slow motion moments you saw on the day were obviously the TV crew replaying the free kicks against, which thankfully the commentators did make mention of a couple of times. Were like, there wasn't a free kick there. I'm glad that they, because sometimes a free kick goes against, and like commentators would just never mention it again, even though it was a blatantly bad call. But the commentators did at least give him his flowers a little bit, in the sense that he was a bit unlucky. So, yeah, good Aaliyah game. Actually toyed with getting him up higher, but again, it's a weird game for some of the votes. But yeah, in the 3 spot, I've got Mitch Georgiades. Could have got to 4 or 5 if he kicked 4 or 5 or 6. Like, I think he was sneaking into being in full...
On the precipice.
Yeah, like if he gets one of those bad games, he's going to start getting the 4 or 5 votes, I think. But he just missed a few of those chances that, he was... could have really set the game up as man of the match. But still imperious in his presence. His lead-up work was fantastic. 3 goals from 8 marks. Good tackle, obviously, as we've mentioned, in the Wilson Gray as well. He just needs to put a bag together at some point to get himself probably up to those 4 or 5 vote spots, unfortunately, because with forwards, you get less disposals. And if if you miss a couple of chances that I think you should get, then you're not going to get into the 4 or 5 spot for me. But he still had a great game. I'm not dismissing that at all. And he's on the precipice to one of those just fantastic forward games, I think. So, 4 spot, Miles Bergman. He had a few moments, but I think he grew into the game well. And he had the 9 marks, 4 tackles, 5 inside. He had 677 metres gained, 12 intercepts as well, alongside with Aaliyah. Kind of considering, again, I think he's just like, there's a little bit of that question mark over his head about his future as well. And I think he's applying himself very, very well to the Port Adelaide cause, which is all I can ask for in a player that's, in an interesting situation as far as his future goes. But I don't think he's not phoning it in at all. And it wasn't a classic highlights Miles Bergman game, but across the game, I noticed his efforts and the stats that kind of bear that out as well. So I was really, really impressed with his game, and just wish, again, just some of the synergy things, and his impact isn't being as seen as times, I think, because of the synergistic disconnect that we have at times. But his work alone is quite good. No. I think breaking news that Jason HORNE-FRANCIS is obviously number 1 then. 5 votes for my man of the match. 28 disposals, 12 contested. This is what I love. He's got 6 tackles, 6 marks, which 2 of those were contested. Obviously, one of those popping up in the Wilson Gray as well. 6 clearances, the 3 goals, 6 score involvements with those goals as well. So a lot of just, he's even across the board, but like in a closer level, and having tackles, marks, clearances, to have those kind of midfield numbers that look pretty good. But then you add the 3 goals in there, and I think 4 of his 6 marks were inside 50 as well. So like he's like doing a fair bit of work inside 50, and then getting the decent midfield numbers up as well. So just really impressed with his game, and obviously it was really working out the rest of my votes was interesting. But as far as man of the match goes, I had JHF penciled in. Not just penciled in, permanent market in right away, which, as I said last week, hadn't had him feature in my votes yet, and he's bounced back with getting my man of the match. So that's my votes.
Yeah. It was definitely like it reminded me of his performance in the Indigenous All-Stars game, just kind of that all-rounded. Yeah, it's kind of what we expected coming into the season. That's just eluded him to an extent. And like Ken said before the game, like he wasn't that bad last week. He still had 8 score involvements and 22 disposals and whatnot, which we kind of discussed on the show last week. But this game really reminded me of what we what we were expecting, like I said, coming into the season. But interesting list of votes. Makes it really easy for me, right down to the honourable mention, because that's our first Yahtzee for the year.
Oh, no shit. I did not expect that this week at all, but I guess...
Yeah, even down to the honourable mention.
That's incredible.
I had Asava written here as well. So there you go, people. I don't need to go through any stats, but yeah, obviously we saw it in very similar ways. Yeah. What more to say?
Yeah, the controversial putting Butters in the one, but I was just like, yeah, but that's really fun to see that you've ended up that way.
Yeah, but I mean, to paint a picture from a champion data point of view, he's at 8.2, Alia's at 12.4. That was probably the kind of out of the 5, that was the 2 that could have been either way around. But I mean, yeah, like I said, Zach Butters' line generally gets him probably up a bit further, to be honest, in some games. But I agree. Alia, a couple of blunders early in the piece, but yeah, Imperious again throughout the match, 9 marks as a whole, 5 contested, and 8 of those were intercepts. One of them ended up as a bit of a one-hander too. Just a fantastic game. And like when Alia is in that general kind of frame of mind, he does take the game on intuitively and strongly.
Yeah.
And to go along with your meters gained comment too, George, I kind of echo the same sentiments. If he banged on a couple more, he's probably in the 4 or 5 spot. Bergman all round game, breaking the lines, trying to gain meterage, trying to be strong in the contest, and JHF, there's just no denying him best on ground.
Mm.
Even the coaches agreed with that. So
yeah, it was really
yeah. Easy
to see that, yeah, JHF got the 10 coaches' votes because, yeah, it means both are pretty in tune with that. So, yeah, no, it really, yeah, I wasn't expecting ERT this week of all weeks, but that's cool. Yeah, I like, it's a real good moment to be like, great minds think alike. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to preview in a moment for Hawthorn and wrap up, but just a moment for the Guernsey matchup as well. Really, really fun one.
Yes.
Really enjoyed.
Yeah, very interesting. Very
Kind
spicy.
of, yeah, they're like kind of Knights Templar, almost kind of old school look.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it was just a really fun color matchup. Like a lot of color out there. Obviously, our throwback was really great. I said to you on the day that I think this is a real niche take, just in my appreciation of Guernseys and jerseys from around the world. I think our Lightning Guernsey is genuinely, and for those watching on YouTube, I'm kind of leaning over so you can fully see the old Nike short sleeve that's hanging in my background. The best use of sublimation technology in any Guernsey in world sports history. It's just like to actually throw a real lightning bolt onto a Guernsey like that. And the way it's utilized. And I think just the MG, the Macron with the MG sponsor on it on the day looked, they did a really good job of replicating it almost to a T.
Yeah, they did.
Even the fact that MG is like red and white in the
red,
kind of matches up the Vodafone kind of aesthetic from the original one. So there was a lot of aesthetic similarities, and it sucks that we couldn't put the performance on the day to replicate the kind of success we did have in it, at least in that first year of running with it for a couple of years there. But I really enjoyed the Guernsey matchup overall, and I think there was a few people there was a few social media accounts I can't recall, but there was a few posts alluding to the fact that the matchup overall, like St Kilda played their part in that too. So shout out to them for a good fit on the day and just overall making it a fun game. I mean, it was a fun game to probably watch for the neutral, I assume, like with St Kilda getting the jump and Port kind of trying to fight their way back the whole time. Obviously, skills weren't always great, but I think it was probably a decent Sunday afternoon game, and certainly decent to watch on the eye for the Guernseys as well. So shout out to hopefully I know we've kind of burned through some of the classics in the last couple of years. It would be fun to see Port kind of start coming out with some new ones as well for one-offs, whether it be gather rounds or something for future years. But it's been a fun run.
That's an interesting call, because it's something that we haven't we haven't done yet is just like a one-off for it. Gather around like other clubs seem to be doing. So now we've kind of gone through all of our retro kits. I like that thought.
The mating dolphins one hasn't come up yet, so
the mating dolphins one. Do we want it to?
I mean, Tom Logan took one of the marks of the year in it, so I'd be down to see it just to.
He did, he did. But I think it's probably the highlight of that Guernsey's history, to be honest, because I don't remember seeing too many wins in it. But I don't even think I saw too many close losses in it, to be fair. It was basically a white flag.
I do have one in amongst my many Guernseys. I do have one. I wore it a lot when I was in college for some reason. I don't know. Just one of the Port Guernseys I had over with me in the US, so I wore it to a few bars when I would get a bar to put a Port game on when it worked. But anyway, it would be fun to see some new Guernseys as well. Like we released that stealth one a few years ago that never actually got worn on the field. I have one of those too, and just like it was a concept Guernsey as well. But like that would be a fun one to wear. But even just you see
that one looks cool. I like that one. Aaron, shout out to Aaron. He bought one as well.
It's a nice one on sale. Person as well. Yeah, it's so something like that, or any of that. There's so many great Guernsey designers popping around on Instagram and stuff these days as well that pop out some interesting concepts out there. I know, not to speak of the Crows too much, but I know their original Gather Round one, I think, kind of came from one of the guys on Instagram essentially designed one that the Crows, I think, credited the design to as well. So, there's a lot of stuff popping around there, but whether you do go from, inspiration from someone that's designed one or you have your own in-house designs that you've got it'd be fun to see some new stuff out there, but certainly enjoyed the run through of the classics the last few years, but this one was the last one of the true classics. Again, I have a soft spot for the Mating Dolphins one. I don't know why. Your points about it being a white flag are well made. I don't know why.
I don't think you have too many friends though.
No, it's just
urging that one to come back.
It's just me being a real degenerate nuffy when it comes to Guernseys. There's a Liverpool one from years ago where it was one of the Warrior ones that had like the tattoo design down the sleeves that I fucking loved. And that not many people did. I didn't love it. It's just more I appreciated the weirdness of it, and sometimes that's just where I end up with some jerseys out there, even though I like objectively like the ones that are, but even this one was kind of, I think from what I remember, some people didn't like this one either at the time, and now it's but the Lightning, I guess, was a very bold statement back in 2004. So anyway, just wanted to make a note of that again because it was really fun to see that out there again, and it's certainly, I'd imagine in 5, 10, whatever years that Port want to roll it back again, it's certainly going to be a popular one whenever they want to do the throwbacks with it, I think. So and it's cool to see a lot of people at the ground were already wearing it. Like the MG one, I obviously turned up with my Nike one because I wanted to be a little hipster boy. But it was cool to see a lot of people running around in it. It's certainly popular in the merchandise sales, I'm sure. Anyway, I think it's about time that we preview, since we're getting pretty late here, a massive weekend in Adelaide. Certainly with our Port boys finishing off Gather Round, but also it's just Gather Round. A quick note on that before we get to the game. It's my first one on the ground here. I know you've done it already. I'm really excited for that. I'm going to the Thursday night match as well. Going down with my brother, so that is always an interesting experience because he's a Crows fan.
Good luck.
Yeah. But I was just like, he had a spare ticket. I was like, I just want to take in as much of Gather Round as I can and go down with them.
Yeah. Festival of Footy's good. Yeah, Adelaide definitely has a buzz about it at this time of the year for Gather Round. It's palpable. It's just because, there's a lot of footy heads all wearing their colours around town. It's a fantastic buzz, in my opinion. I've obviously been on the ground for the first couple of years. I went to the double header the first year where Port played the night game, but also went and watched the Melbourne Essendon game before that, and I just went to the Essendon Port game last year, but enjoyed the Elder Park Footy Festival as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, doing it a bit differently this year as well, being closer to some of our home venues.
Yeah, you and I are both. And shout out to anyone that's listening that might be heading to Lyndoch on Saturday. Jamie and I will be buzzing around there. So if you want to say g'day, let us know. We'll obviously be at the game, but we'll be in Lyndoch early for a few pre-match bevies.
And we'll be at the Ministry of Beer.
Yes.
Prior from 10:30.
Yeah. Shout out Steve. Ministry. Yeah, we're going to be grabbing some beers there and obviously going to the game. And then I don't know what's happening. Trying to figure out possibly utilizing Uber in the Barossa for the first time. Like for anyone outside the Barossa, I'm going to understand, but Uber has only been in the Barossa for about 2 weeks now, which is obviously probably a government thing to do for gather round and hopefully into the future.
The gather round, yeah.
It is a big deal for the Barossa right now. If you're in Barossa Valley community chat on Facebook, it's very controversial at the moment.
Community chat or community chatters?
It's community chat. It is very, very, it's just an entertaining page at the best of times. You should have
much like most community pages out there on Facebook.
I love it. It is very much a good source of information occasionally, but also just a great source of entertainment. So, we'll be obviously I'll be at Adelaide Oval on Thursday night for Crows Geelong. Shout out if you happen to be there as well. Doing a similar thing to me and just taking in festivities. But certainly I'm really excited for a game in Lyndoch. I think North Melbourne Gold Coast will be a sneaky fun game. Good players on both sides. And I'm really excited just as a footy fan to see a few of those guys on both sides. Gold Coast is a team I've never actually seen play in person. Took Miller's a player I really do love as well, though, so I'm looking forward to that. Obviously some young stars on the North Melbourne side. So, shout out if you happen to be in Lyndoch on Saturday, but certainly we'll both be there on Sunday night for Geelong, which Geelong, Hawthorn. Yeah, just another team that's just caused me pain at times in my life. It's really, really fun. And look, we all knew this was going to happen as soon as they announced this as the gather round fixture, but just really interesting in the aftermath of last year's final, obviously with the Ken Hinkley and Jack Ginnivan stuff. And lo and behold, as I was actually getting ready to take a shower after work just a few hours ago before podcasting, I see a notification pop up on my phone, and it's the Dismal on Tuesday article from the AFL app, and it reads like it's fucking Michael Buffer, like it's time for Kenny Hinkley versus Jack Ginnivan, the sequel. Like it's just like being surprised that the AFL is hypocritical as being being surprised that the Catholic Church has some secrets. Like I just shouldn't be at this point, but it is. I still have a frustration with it, but I'm also just trying to embrace the theater of it, and you just know just before we get into all the ins and outs of the sides and everything, and certainly a massive out on the Hawthorn side, which I had to do a double take because they'd been on a bye. I was like, how has this happened? We'll get to that in a moment. But you just know if Jack Ginnivan kicks a goal, he's going to do an aeroplane celebration, isn't he?
100%. Yeah, it was brought up today somewhere across the airwaves. Like, will it happen? And it's. I think it's a fait accompli.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to us to just absolutely make sure that he does not kick a goal. That's another story altogether.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the response from the Port Adelaide players would be if he does pull out the plane celebration.
Yeah, because ultimately they didn't do anything last year.
Yeah, are they playing that would be a really line in the sand moment for the playing for Ken thing as well. Like not to read too much into everything, but if Zach Butters immediately got in Jack Ginnivan's face while he's in the middle of a plane thing, I'd be like, all right, Zach Butters is still here for Ken. And not that I'm just here for the theater of it right now. But anyway, all that bullshit aside, and it is, stuff that we like to talk about here and there on the podcast, but the core of what we like to do is talk about the game itself, obviously. And I guess before we look at the Lions, I think just massive news that we kind of teased a little bit. Will Day is out for Hawthorn, not just for this week, but for a few months. They're
months. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have awakened to that news, or awakened in the middle of the day, but they're cognizant to it now. It's big news.
It absolutely
He's a gun.
Yeah, he is, and like that's a massive miss for them. Certainly, I'm still a little bit, tentative in my hopes because we've just failed the test against.
Oh, because absolutely.
It's certainly
we're middling hard at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly a help to us in any degree because he's kind of burgeoning on being a superstar kind of player, or he is maybe in some eyes, but like his start to the year was really good, and there's a lot of talk about like I think there was Crows fans being like we could have had him like because I think he was taking.
I don't think yeah,
I can't remember. I'm trying to think about the draft.
I think Will Day at Hawthorn will be a somewhat permanent appointment.
Yeah,
he has heritage at Hawthorn. While he is a South Australian, I've heard him in a few interviews, and I think that's one of the rare ones where he ain't coming back.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if he did.
I think he's gonna. Yeah, he'll when that deal comes, like it's going to be very healthy for him. Although they seem to be in for everyone. If you listen to all the trade rumors and whispers and free agency stuff, but that's just that's half of that shit's bullshit anyway because it's just the media now. But massive out for them. Obviously, there. They've got a few others that are tests as well. James Warple, a big one. Connor McDonald, 2 tests for them. They seem to think that I think it's certainly the Sunday game aspect of it does help a couple of those guys. There's extra time. Obviously, if it's a Friday game, it might be a completely different prospect for them. But being Sunday evening for any player that might just be borderline might help. Warple certainly would be a big in for them. Shadir's out. Obviously, Mitch Lewis is out for a while. And as we mentioned, Will Day is just 3 to 4 months is his injury timeline, which is just very, very
no Jack Scrimshaw as well.
Actually, I missed that on my injury list. I didn't get that on mine. So
he's suspended.
Oh, that's why I had an injury list. So suspension. Yeah, I didn't. Should have looked at that too, but I just looked at.
Yeah. I'm thankful that the AFL website put that there because it's not an injury report, but it is a person and a key person missing out
absolutely.
This weekend.
Yeah, so they're missing a few. As we are obviously, but we're actually we're the ones that we're missing that are major have been factors for a few weeks. Will Day's just hit them today. Well, I think he came back from the bye and had a first run, and they kind of said he had some soreness, and they did some tests and found a stress factor. So it's not,
stressy.
Yeah, it's probably a wild one for the coaches who went into the bye going, all right, we're fit, we're good. Like, Sam Mitchell and co would have gone after last week, 8 days ago, been like, okay, everyone's through, we're good. Have a week of planning. And then Will Day comes back from the bye and, suddenly he's got a stress fracture and he's out for a few months. So it's an interesting one. They're still highly, highly talented and stacked, but not that it's going to impact this week, by the way, but Jack Lukosius might be a little bit quicker as well, according to Port's injury report. It was still 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, and they keep reducing BZT's
it's
injury
exponentially reducing,
comeback too.
It seems to be, doesn't it? Like it's
I know. And we need him back for the showdown, but that's another story altogether. But because we as we've said, we've already resigned ourselves to the fact that he's not going to come back at least before the bye, if not all year, just catastrophizing it, just to keep our hearts under wraps. But it keeps coming down, so he must be tracking well back into full health.
Yeah, it must be just hitting some positive metrics in the recovery to make them more confident that he can be back sooner. Because I've just been constantly on the fact that he just won't be back before the bye. That's just been my thing with being a back injury and relatively long term from when it was first diagnosed. And I'll be very, very happy to see him back sooner though. So Anyway, as far as the game goes, we'll get into a quick preview of the lines in a moment before we finish off. But 32 and sunny. 33 and sunny on Sunday. Is she going to be quite obviously the game's at 6:50 Adelaide time, so
means it might get a bit dewy.
Yeah, that's
because it'll obviously be dark by the time the game kicks off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as anyone not local, our daylight savings ended last weekend. So on the day we played last week, obviously was the first day of it ending. But
let me tell you, as a parent, I am all my Christmases have come at once. I was saying to a guy at work that, and other parents, I hope you can sympathize, relate to it. That the children's circadian rhythm is definitely predicated by the sun. It's amazing what daylight savings can do to a sleep schedule of a toddler. But yeah, loving the extra hour post bedtime.
Yeah, that's great. Because it was even just driving home tonight. I was just like, because the last since the start of the podcast this year, I've been driving home on a Tuesday and it's been sunny, and I've been getting home and been a little bit of time, and then tonight just complete darkness by the time I was driving home. And so I think I said it last year, but this is the time of the year that it's like, it's footy season now.
Exactly. For me.
Yeah.
It gets cool once the sun goes down. It's a bit warm during the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just autumn vibes.
Yeah, which is ironic considering it might feel a little bit more summerish during the day on Sunday. But yeah, even Saturday, like at Lindock, we're going to be 32 degrees. It's going to be a warm weekend. You could say that
I'm so looking forward to it. Like, the weather couldn't be any better.
Yeah. Particularly for just
around
sinking some beers and watching some footy on Saturday will be fun. But yeah, certainly for Sunday's game, could make it interesting conditions by the time nighttime rolls around for Port versus Hawthorn. Oh man, it's an interesting situation to go through the lines at the moment, because we keep going on paper every week, and on paper it doesn't work.
Which has also been documented. Not documented, spoken about, whether it be Monday Flyball or sports radio.
Interesting discussion between Kane and Kingy, because Kingy goes, well, the game's not played on paper, and Kane rightly goes, yeah, but we discussed this stuff. Like, that's the only way you can discuss it previous is, you've got to talk about what your expectations are, and then you just dissect what you actually saw post match. But I find the backline battle the most intriguing because it's certainly a very, very talented backline we're going to be coming up against for our forwards. But then one of the few bright spots out of last weekend was the potential of Ollie Lord, Mitch Georgiades, Jason Horne-Francis maybe having a bit more time down there as a bit of a wild card. Can't have that, Charlie. We can't just have a guy that does whatever he wants. No. But yeah, I'm like, but then you got one of the great swingmen in the competition, James Sicily, who would just be down, like, doing what he's, Jath is back. He came back. I think he came back a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Tom Barras has been inserted down there. Hardwick's. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what to expect from it, and it's one of those. But it's interesting because I do have more hope than I probably, weirdly, out of a loss. The one bright spot again was the fact that we had these.
Oh, you Dan Gorringe or Richmond Gorringe.
Yeah.
I'm weirdly optimistic.
The three guys, we had three guys combined for 9 goals. The more of the concern comes to me when it comes to the middle of the ground. But then at some point, I think it's going to. I don't know if it's going to click for us as far as becoming a really, really good team this year, but the midfield's got to click more. But yeah, as far as the forward versus their backs go, I don't know if I'm being. Again, I talk myself into things because I want to go into a game with hope. Like, I'm not just going to be internally, I might be a bit pessimistic, but as far as outwardly, I want to talk myself into having some hope. So I'm trying to talk myself into what we saw from our forwards last week being maybe hopefully a sign forward to a little bit more trouble for Hawthorn if we can get the delivery in. But yeah, I think Mitch Georgiades and Ollie Lord provide an interesting foil for each other based on what I saw last week against a Ross Lyon team. You know, but it's not like we're playing a team that likes to a coach that likes to lock things down a little bit. So for them to kind of have the game they did, considering the game it was, gave me a little bit of hope going into this one, considering the opposition we're playing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I guess Hawthorn as a whole, by and large, over the years, we match up well against. So that also brings hope. Like we generally, have had decent games on the positive end for us as well against Hawthorn in recent years. And yeah, so I understand your optimism, and especially when Will Day, I know we're talking about our forward line, their back line, but with the Will Day omission, how does that domino affect the rest of their structure? Because he's a champ. I think Blake Hardwick had a decent game, one of their better players against GWS a couple of rounds ago. So yeah, they're obviously coming off the bye as well. Will that affect them early? Can we start a game well on our end? These are the questions. But yeah, from our forwards point of view, the structure from the St Kilda game definitely fills me with more hope that we can compete. It'll keep someone like a Tom Barrass busy, having an Ollie Lord there. Then, yeah, you would imagine Sicily goes on Georgiades, for example, but they may also swing Sicily forward. That would be an option. So that'll be interesting to see. But for our forwards, we need to bring our small forwards into the game because when we're doing that, we're just spreading the load. Also, I think we need to, our forward pressure game has kind of been a little bit off, but I think that's also because our entries have been shit and I haven't really had a good go at being able to defend the forward.
Because they bounce out so quickly sometimes, so they don't actually get a chance to try to lock it in and create stoppage. Yeah,
exactly. So I want that. Like I want us, like we've gone away from a high press type of bomb it in type of game plan, but they all know it very well. And there's no reason why you can't still defend hard in the forward 50, even if you're changing a game plan. So I want to see more of that. Putting them under real pressure at home, like we've got to make a statement or else the season will quickly slip away, which there's already signs of it happening.
Yeah. You know, if we can come out of this one with, I mean, at this point it has to be a result, but if we can just play far better this week, it at least gives you some hope going forward. Because the last couple of weeks have been pretty, beyond little wins within the game, as I mentioned with the forward line. You know, the three goal amigos. It's otherwise pretty poor reading. Probably where some of my worry comes from is through the middle because we're just the efforts on the weekend, last weekend, and just our fitness doesn't look top notch. Some of the chase efforts, even and guys like Rosie, who we do like, he had some moments where, and sometimes I think they're made a bit too big a deal of when the talk shows pick moments because it's just like. Sometimes players do just go like because they go, oh, you should put the effort in all the time. But sometimes it's just like that. There's no win in trying to chase this player down because I'm already, unless if they're that far away and you're just trying to get in position for the next play.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
I think there was one today. Sorry, there was one today. I think it was Matthew Lloyd. Clipped up a piece of vision from Connor Rosie's running effort. I think Wangan Mulera had the ball going the other way and criticising Rosie. And I was actually surprised to see, because I couldn't really remember that portion of the game, but there was actually some comments saying, well, did you actually want to comment on the fact that Rosie was sprinting 65 metres towards our forward 50 and then a teammate turned it over, which meant we were out of position, but he'd also just
gone on a
50+ minute sprint one way. And then you expect him to immediately recover, match up on a guy, and go with him sprinting the other way. Like that's a lot of effort.
That's what I mean. Is it's like sometimes there's players that just like the effort. Like it's very easy to pick a moment and try to make a point because you kind of
extrapolated out,
going with a narrative rather than actually like it's just like, but that's what they're paid to do, is just find moments to talk about rather than actually have nuanced takes. So, but I still do worry about our ability just with watching the Hawthorn run through the middle over the last, obviously the last half or 2/3 of last season, and then certainly the way they've started this season as well, and comparative to our sometimes lack of as good a run as we expect to have, maybe from some of our leaders. Certainly, the likes of Murray's and Richards and Berry, if he gets it, like the young, those guys have shown like a propensity to have some good run and fitness through the middle. It's just how that gels with the likes of, and certainly Butters being back is an intriguing aspect of that. Now that he's got a week under the belt, and thankfully,
I think it'll be better for the run, to be honest.
I think that's why it was important. I know a lot of Port fans had their cynicism, and understandable to a certain extent. Again, like I just was like, I'm not going to complain too much until I see, if he'd come out of the game and he'd been down injured again after the game because he wasn't prepared, then I would have been like, okay, we need to be better at figuring this stuff out. But he got through the game. Like the fact he got through this game with the run under his legs, I think it was Port. As soon as they knew he was probably going to be fit for this week, I think they went, we need to get him for St Kilda because it's going to be and obviously hoping to beat St Kilda, but we need to get the run in the legs because if he's going to be fit for Hawthorn, we need to get a run in the legs for him to be even fitter for Hawthorn than just coming in off the injury. That'll be really important. And we just talked about the forward line, but it opens up the options for HORNE-FRANCIS. Like we saw it last weekend. He benefited from having the freedom to do a bit of both.
It's a net gain in that regard.
As you said, the loss of Will Day for Hawthorn, the domino effect of that, the domino effect the other way for us having Butters back has opened up HORNE-FRANCIS for his best game of the year last year, and Butters hopefully can have actually come into this game now with a run under the legs to have a really, really good game as well. But overall the run of it sucks seeing Amon is one, but it's even just Jarman Impey having moved to Hawthorn a few years before. Like he's just really become a key cog, and I really loved him when he was at Port, but I'm not sure I even saw him becoming this important to the structure of Hawthorn when he left.
No, he's a senior player now. He's had many years under his belt.
Absolute gun as well. Like I love watching him. Like when I watch Hawthorn
playing with confidence.
Yeah, and I'm genuinely happy for him because I think didn't leave Port with there was no ill feeling or anything like that. But it just maybe it was just my read at the time. I just didn't think he was going to become an important side. This integral to a side that is one of the most popular sides in the competition at the moment, both by vibes and pure football as well. But that's just great. It's just sometimes players just find the right spot for them and their skill set at a certain time. And Impey's incredible. But just the link of him and Amon just is a little bit just tugs at the heartstrings, and it just makes you feel
it sucks.
A little sad. It's like Amon was certainly one. Again, it's just one of those ones there are two players that we kind of developed and then have gone off and. It hurts, and
I understand wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but they're key parts of that run through the middle, and that probably is, considering what we've seen in the opening month of the season for us. That's probably where my main concern lies in this game. Again, on paper, we should be better, but the evidence we've seen so far gives me some worry for how we'll battle them through the middle, like the likes of.
That's even.
And I think maybe I'll let you take it, but because I know you love, you were more cognizant of Lloyd Meek's ability last year when we were talking about this. I wasn't as aware of him at the time, but you'd already kind of locked in on him being an up and coming, and now he's kind of seen as one of the best rucks in the comp.
It's just a behemoth, And we went in with Visentini. Obviously, after Visentini had a fantastic game against Geelong the week before, but that was more of just the matchup type of thing. Like an up-and-coming kid who we have big raps for in Visentini, but like Lloyd Meek is just a man mountain, and I thought the matchup could have been better and would have given us a better leg up earlier in that game against Hawthorn last year. And that's where this is one of the more tantalising matchups for me, because Sweet, I thought competed well, if not won the position in the semi-final. And he's come into this season as one of our better players so far in the first month. So it offers something different outside of a ruck contest too, with his kind of propensity to run and carry and link up with our midfield as well. Whereas I think Lloyd Meek is still more of that traditional big bulky ruckman, tap ruckman, try and command space in the ruck contest and in close. And then just below that, we haven't really paid much credit to Jai Newcombe. Like, he's a gun. Yeah. And Dylan Moore is Dylan Moore's an All-Australian. So talk about a domino effect. They've still got some pretty handy work. And what was his name? Cam McKenzie had 30 disposals against the Giants a couple rounds ago. So before their bye, an up-and-coming player for them. So look, they're one of the most informed sides in the competition. They're in good form. They're playing with confidence. They have a sound game plan. But yeah, that ruck division is going to play a critical role in our fortunes on Sunday.
Yeah. It's and I'm really intrigued for that as well. I think Jordan Sweet's come into this year with a little bit more, like, he just looks a little thicker and fitter, and as you said, he's been one of our better players and makes for a really intriguing matchup with Lloyd Meek. And I don't think it'll be an absolute win for either rucks, but it'll probably be a part of the tantalising battle in the middle. That it would just be a battle, but we need to some of those. Just the clearance and stoppage game and inside game just needs to improve a little bit more. Just intent for the ball, play it at its merits. Be proactive, not reactive, a little bit more. I think that's a lot of what hopefully they've got a full week to prepare for this one from Sunday to Sunday, obviously. So hopefully there's a lot of kind of dialing down on what's kind of been going wrong over the last couple of weeks post because Richmond, everything felt right again, but they've got to just figure those things out. Their forward line is just, I find, so intriguing. Obviously they're missing Calcadir, who's their big big forward, but Marbia Chol, I love him as I don't see him as a consistent big forward. But then they're just so vibes based with Nick Watson's, Nick Watson and Jack Ginnivan, and they've still got Luke Bruce and Jack Gunston running around, who, if they take a mark anywhere inside 50, I'm fairly trustworthy that they can kick a goal. Yeah, so it's not like I'd look at if they were coming up against the Crows this week. It's just like they're all going to kick 10, the way they're going at the moment. I don't see any of those ones, but by the sum of their part, they've got enough parts down there that they'll figure out a mix that they're going to have some good goal scorers down there. It's going to be a really good challenge and presents a different challenge. Somewhat, St Kilda had to go with a different route because they were missing a lot of their tall timber. There's a little bit of the Watsons and Ginnivans and kind of the Jack Higgins aspect to what St Kilda did to us. There's a little bit of data that we could take from that to try to figure out. And certainly it's just going to come down to the likes of, I think you and I are both pretty happy with Asava and Alir, is that spine down there. It's the support they get around that from the likes of Dean and Evans. If Evans, again, we said, I assume Evans will play, but him getting subbed off was an interesting aspect of last week that could speak to maybe where the team is potentially, the coaches are potentially looking for changes.
There's obviously going to be one change to our forward line with DVJ unfortunately getting suspended.
Yes. I didn't
really talk about that. Just a bit of an awkward situation. In my opinion, it was right in front of us.
I think I said to you straight away, I was just like, I think he's probably going to be in trouble. Not that I think, and it's just 1 week for that one is actually, to me at the moment, is fine. It's when you get 3 or 4 weeks for something that wasn't bad, but because someone ended up concussed. It's like it's the outcome versus intent thing that sometimes, like, I'm fine with that one being a 1 weeker. Maybe I don't know where I'm at with stuff still, because I think concussion awareness is very important. But yeah, anyway, DBJ's out, so that does provide an interesting, and again, it'll be an interesting squads later in the week on Patreon. But as far as the back line,
considering we were halfback heavy, like, I do have half a mind to think that Evans may get dropped and shift Mead to a sub, because you've got Burgoyne, and then obviously Lockie Jones came back in for the St Kilda game. I think we're well covered there. Sin would definitely need a lift if he is to hold his spot, although he can run a wing if Burgoyne's back. If they want to, and this is where, after a month of football now, where they whether they jump at positional changes or not. Because Sin, I think, could perform quite admirably on a wing, just as much as I believe Burgoyne can and already has performed on a half back if the situation calls for it. So with Evans out, Mead to a sub. One of Burgoyne's
best games of his career was against HAWTHORN at halfback, right? So
halfback it was too. Yeah. And I would imagine that Cochrane would come back in for DBJ and Berry would start.
Yeah, I think
Cochrane and Berry starting
well in the SANFL on the weekend, from what I remember.
He kicked 4 goals from like 11 disposals, I think it was.
Pretty well, I said.
Sorry.
That's
an understatement.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, that's what.
So Berry and Cochrane starting for mine. Mead on sub duties this week, and unfortunately Evans omitted. Is mine. That was a bit of a tangent from the last line that we were discussing. I think our defense matches up well to their forward line, and I guess that's the Sin thing kind of brought my mind to selections, because I expect him to stay, but he does need to lift defensively off the back of that St Kilda game on Sunday, because, like you said, excuse me, Watson, Ginnivan, Bruce, he's going to have to match up against one of them, or all of them at differing stages. So can't leave it all to the likes of Lockie Jones, Burgoyne, Bergman, and Farrell to do all the work. It's going to take a whole team effort. That's obvious. That goes without saying.
No, absolutely. It'll be intriguing when squads drop later in the week as to what the eventual shakeout is, because you and I have both certainly noted, because I think Logan Evans being dropped will be big news, even if we think he probably should. And again, it's just like sometimes you just need a run in the twos when you're that young. So it'll be interesting how it shakes out either way, but certainly we know there's at least one change coming with DBJ obviously out. So there's magnets are going to be shifting, which seems it's just every week so far this year. It's just like, at some point, it would be nice to get to a week where it's just like it's unchanged. It's a 15-minute squad show.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. The spine, though, regardless of the change, I'm still happy with, considering what we have at our disposal. We just, again, and like we've just gone through the lines, like you said, we can discuss it on paper, but at the end of the day, we just need to stop giving it back to the fucking opposition in compromising spots. Crucial turnovers, like we mentioned, scores from turnover differential. We need to bring that gap closer together, and hopefully it clicks in terms of their transition game, handball, one less handball. Hopefully they release a bit quicker and go a bit more direct to goal, bringing in those forwards, because the effort, the intensity, that all comes into it. Putting that to one side, though, the one of the biggest detractors of our game against Collingwood, Essendon, and St Kilda has been our turnovers. They've killed us. Stop giving it back to them, and we'll go a long way to getting the season back on track.
Yeah, they even telegraphed that in preseason. I think when Corns or one of the coaches was on talking about the new game plan, it was just like, there's going to be turnovers, but we have to win the differential, and so far we haven't. So Yeah, you need to turn that around, and that just comes with simple there's intent in ball use as well, which just has been poor at times. The hospital handballs and all that stuff has just been poor. So yeah, there's a lot of areas that are very easy to fix on paper. Again, on paper, it's just actually executing on game day. So what's your prediction for the game?
I want to temper expectations and tip against us because, quite frankly, like while we have hope and optimism, the team hasn't displayed it for long enough. So, unfortunately, it would be pie in the sky again, to use that phrase, for me to go, I think we're going to win, because I'm not confident of that right now. Unfortunately, I think we can if we get it all together, like we've just discussed, but I don't expect it. I think it's better to go in that way and being happy with the miracle if it does come off. But we have to respond. So, Jesus Christ, if we get thumped, that'll be something serious. But I'm not a close game, but a close loss is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's if we can rebound a little bit and have a little bit of a positive performance, but ultimately go down by 20 odd points, maybe, and just a fighting that they just sneak their way ahead at the end with a bit of run and just ultimately just being a more confident team. Unfortunately, it's going to be an interesting review at this point next week either way, because it's either going to be we'll either have had one of the greatest nights of our lives because we've come out and actually had greatest nights of our lives is quite hyperbolic, but I love the.
I mean, that's footy. That's footy. The footy landscape. It's hyperbolic, it's sensationalism. You can't escape it. It's quite nauseating, to be honest.
I love the Anfield rap boys always say, these are the days, and it's just like you've just been born with 2-0. It's just like, yeah, cool. That's what it's all about. Every game day is the most important and greatest day of our lives. But the great thing is, if we do have a great gather round win, it will be it will buoy optimism for what this season can bring. Not obviously delusions of grandeur, but at least some improvement. But if we do go down in disappointing fashion again, it'll just be another interesting review on that side of the spectrum. So, I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to the gather rounds of festivities. As far as a football game, I'm probably more excited just as far as a pure enjoyment aspect for Linddock on Saturday, because I'm so nervous about what Hawthorn could do to us if we do turn up with the lack of intent that we've had. But if we do bring some of the pressure that we did at times against St Kilda, like there is, the boom or bust nature of our side. It just depends which one we see. Hopefully more boom. That's really what it is.
I definitely hope so. Yeah.
So
a bit of Sanpal Pepper, here comes the boom, would be just what the doctor ordered as well on the night.
Yeah, if we can get
crash packs,
if we get
stiff arming.
If we get the barometer kind of Sanpal Pepper game like that, Mike Rashudo kept on trying to talk about on the commentary.
He did,
which I appreciate. But if we can get a barometer Sanpal Pepper game, that'll go a long way to us potentially ending up on the positive end of the ledger by the end of the night. That could be, because that'll mean the forward line is playing well, and we're going a long way to evening the stakes against Hawthorn. So. It's a massive weekend for South Australia coming up. Obviously, I'm really excited to take part in the gather round festivities for the first time in person. Really excited for it. All of it, obviously, but massively excited for Linddock on Saturday. Adelaide Oval on Sunday. It's going to be a big weekend. I don't know if I've got anything more to say. I'm fucking knackered, to be honest.
I know. It's been that kind of few days for all of us a little bit. Some of us more than others, but I think we all kind of feel that way. But obviously plugs the socials before: Facebook the Creed, Twitter _the Creed, Instagram _the Creed. Support us on Patreon. Some of our existing members, thank you very much. Deeply appreciate you. You would notice a reduction to your weekly fee because we've restructured how that all works. So for $5, jump on Patreon to support us if you wish. There'll be another extra options shortly, which involves a few extra benefits. But ultimately, if you want to support us even further, that one will be available soon. So keep yourself posted. The Creed on Patreon. Merch store still going live on Linktree. And if you can, like, follow, subscribe, share it with someone. 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Music goes a long way to helping us and ultimately getting more ears of Port Adelaide fans.
Absolutely. Yeah, there will be. I need to share them with Jamie too. I came up with a couple of designs I really like over the last couple of weeks that will shortly drop on the store. Kind of like minimalist stuff that, yeah, I'll have to share it with Jamie first, and then maybe like if Jamie goes like, I hate that, I'll be like, oh God, I am way off. But yeah, I like kind of like.
I'm keen.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff tomorrow and see what you think. So, but yeah, I've been working behind the scenes on some of that stuff. It's just it takes some time to actually get the designs and then upload them to the store with all the stuff. But yeah, no, excited to get back into more of that, and obviously, yeah, looking forward to squad show this week, which yeah, well, that'll be interesting when we can do that because I've just realised I'm going to the footy on Thursday, so it might have to be a Friday show. If you're available.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I just realised I'm going to be, standing on the hill at Adelaide Oval, or wherever. So, yeah, I probably won't be recording on Thursday now, but yeah, we'll get a squad show out on Patreon this week, and otherwise, just really excited for the festivities. Get in touch with us if you're going to be at any of those games we mentioned earlier. Obviously, I'm there on Thursday night for Adelaide Geelong. We're in Lyndoch on Saturday for North and Gold Coast, and obviously we'll be there for Port Adelaide. As we always are, rain, hail or shine, we are Port Adelaide through and through, and we'll always be there and always be here with the podcast as well. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Up the fucking cockle divers.
Your therapy session has now concluded. Go, boys.
And that is $2,000.